Chapter 407. When he reached the door, Yu Qianqiu hesitated and didn't open the door. He kept looking at both ends of the corridor, as if he was afraid of being seen. The allure beauty swayed her hips as she walked over and asked, "What's wrong?" "Nothing." Yu Qianqiu shook his head. The allure beauty stared at the door and asked in confusion, "Then why don't you go in? Is there a woman hiding in there, and you're afraid I'll find her?" She pushed the door open and walked in. She looked around the room, even under the bed, but she didn't find anything suspicious. When she turned around, she saw him still standing at the door, as if there was a ghost inside, and he didn't dare to come in. "Is this your room?" the 100 Charms enchantress asked. Seeing him nod his head in agreement, she couldn't help but ask curiously, "Then why are you standing outside?" She walked to the door and dragged Yu Qianqiu into the room, closing the door behind her. Yu Qianqiu staggered and looked back. His heart was pounding. He quickly walked to the window and opened it. He looked outside and said to himself, "The room seems a little stuffy." He stayed by the window and didn't move. No matter how he looked at it, he felt like jumping out of the window to escape. The allure beauty was slightly stunned and immediately understood what was going on. This bad guy was afraid of being molested by her. She immediately laughed and said, "Yo, look at you. Are you afraid that I'll eat you?" Yu Qianqiu was a little embarrassed by her words. He thought to himself, "She's not afraid, so why should I be afraid?" He looked outside the window and closed it. He walked to the round table in the middle of the room and sat down. He smiled bitterly and said, "Master's wife, what are you playing at? I'm looking for a reason to look for you openly. I'll also help you make a name for yourself in the cultivation world. If you have any complaints, you can only blame yourself for not greeting your master's wife when you come out. You're looking down on me too much. Could it be that you want to dump me after using me?" the allure temptress said coquettishly. Then she walked in front of him and put one hand on his shoulder. She leaned over and whispered in his ear, "What are you playing at this time? You're not going to play around and leave this time, are you? Why does it sound so ambiguous?" Yu Qianqiu felt the delicate body leaning against his back and was truly speechless. What the hell was going on? He said helplessly, "Master's wife, just say it. What do you want from me?" "Haven't I said it already? Of course, I'm here to ask you, Mr. Yu Qianqiu. Master's wife, don't joke around." After saying that, Yu Qianqiu wanted to stand up. However, a pair of slender hands pressed him back down. The enchantress of allure pinched his shoulders with just the right amount of strength and said in a sorrowful voice, "My magical fantasy palace no longer exists, and now I'm all alone. If you think my craftsmanship is passable, then please accept me as a poor person. I'm willing to stay by your side and serve you." What kind of nonsense is this? Yu Qianqiu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He looked back and said, "Master's wife, please stop. I really don't have the fortune to enjoy it. If you need my help, just say it." At this time, footsteps stopped outside the door. The two of them stopped talking and laughed. Then there was a knock on the door. Ziyi shouted, "Yu Qianqiu." The fireworks were still going off. Why did this girl come back? Yu Qianqiu shrugged his shoulders and said, "Come in." However, the enchantress of 100 Charms' hands refused to leave his shoulders. Instead, she began to knead more and more seriously, as if she was a servant that was being ordered around. Ziyi pushed open the door and entered. When she saw this scene, she was momentarily stunned. She turned around and closed the door. She directly sat in front of Yu Qianqiu and glared at the 100 Charms beauty, who was behind him, massaging his shoulders. In terms of appearance, Ziyi was better than the allure beauty. However, in terms of femininity, Ziyi was far from it. The allure beauty's frown and movement were well trained. Even women would be moved by her, let alone men. Ziyi was like a green apple. It was a little bitter. The allure beauty was like a red strawberry. It was as if one bite would fill one's mouth with juice. Ziyi didn't care about these things. However, it was a woman's nature to love beauty. It was inevitable that they would compare each other. However, the allure beauty's unique charm was unparalleled. It made her feel inferior. Looking at the other party's graceful figure, that was faintly discernible under the red muslin, and the exposed snow-white chest, Ziyi subconsciously glanced at her own chest that was tightly wrapped. It didn't seem to be as perky as the other parties. Ma. Palace Lord, ye don't bother. Yu Qianqiu shrugged his shoulders and said awkwardly. The Allure Beauty giggled and said, It's okay. I'm not afraid of trouble. She rubbed harder. Zi couldn't tell what was in her eyes. In short, it was very complicated. Zi, weren't you going to set off fireworks? Why did you come back? Yu Qianqiu asked with a bitter face. Liar. Zi didn't answer his question. She looked angry. Yu Qianqiu and the Allure Beauty were stunned at the same time. The latter asked Yu Qianqiu, What did you lie to her about? What's there to lie to? Yu Qianqiu rolled his eyes. His body suddenly emitted a scorching heat. After forcing the Allure Beauty away, he stood up and asked Zi. Zi, what's wrong with you? Who lied to you? Could it be those 4 guys? He looked her up and down. He thought, Oh my God, did she lose her chastity? Who dared to force themselves on Nongzhu's daughter? No, to lie to her? They must be tired of living. It doesn't look like it. It's you, you big liar. Zi stood up and shouted. She herself didn't know what was going on. But from the moment she came in and saw Yu Qianqiu and that scantily clad woman acting very intimately together, an indescribable fire surged in her heart. She couldn't explain why. The Allure Beauty looked at Yu Qianqiu with a smile. Her expression seemed to say, I knew you were not a good person. Yu Qianqiu was stunned. Me? What did I lie to you about? He felt a little guilty. Did she know that I used her to make money? You can play the zither and compose music, but you never told me. If you aren't a liar, then what are you? Zi shouted. When the Allure Beauty heard this, the smile on her face froze. It was difficult for her to recover. Her mind was blank. Oh my God! Is this the legendary Zi, who scared off 7 experts at the end of the Heavens test stage? Yu Qianqiu was also stunned. He asked suspiciously. That's it? If I don't tell you, then I'm a liar? Then why should I tell you? Zi paused. It seemed that she couldn't think of a better reason. However, the unknown fire in her hadn't subsided. She shouted in a far-fetched manner. If you don't tell me, then you're a liar. Fine, fine, fine. I'm a liar. Are you satisfied now? Yu Qianqiu was too lazy to argue with her. If he didn't finish playing with a stubborn person, then what was the difference between him and an idiot? He might as well admit that he was wrong. Who asked him to be so kind-hearted? Zi was no match for him. She was so angry that she couldn't say anything. Thus, she pointed the spearhead at the Allure Beauty and asked, What is she doing here? Hey, this girl ate the wrong medicine today. 4 handsome men didn't make you happy? Yu Qianqiu looked at her from head to toe. From today onwards, I will follow Mr. and serve him. The Allure Beauty explained on her behalf. She finally understood that although Ziyi's cultivation was high, her mind wasn't mature yet. Yu Qianqiu was stunned. However, the Allure Beauty transmitted her voice to him. I'm quite well informed. With me by your side, you might be useful in the future. You still want someone to serve you. Ziyi glared at him and said, I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm going to sleep. Yu Qianqiu felt a headache coming on from these 2 women. He let out a roar and walked over to the bed. He threw himself onto the bed and closed his eyes. He didn't care about anything else, and just let them be. Ziyi's chest was rising and falling rapidly. She followed the bed and shouted, Yu Qianqiu, you still haven't answered my question. Don't sleep. It was the first time she was ignored like this since she came from the South Sea. Even her master had never treated her like this. Let's talk tomorrow. I don't want to talk anymore today. Yu Qianqiu closed his eyes and waved his hand weakly. The Allure Beauty walked over with a smile. She bent down and picked up Yu Qianqiu's leg. Yu Qianqiu suddenly propped himself up. He saw that she was taking off his shoes. She really did look like she was serving someone. What was this woman trying to do? Yu Qianqiu was speechless. He just closed his eyes and let her do whatever she wanted. The Allure Beauty nodded to Zi with a faint smile. She then took off her little red shoes and went onto the bed with her bare feet. Under Ziyi's dumbfounded expression, she sat beside Yu Qianqiu. She picked up one of his legs and placed it on her thigh. Then she started to knead it bit by bit. Yu Qianqiu moaned in comfort. He opened his eyes a little and quickly closed them again. His legs were full of elasticity and plump, which really made his imagination run wild. His heart was beating fast. Oh my God. How could I ask my master's wife to knead my legs? But I don't know anything. Ze was speechless. She stood aside and watched for a long time. Suddenly, she heard Yu Qianqiu snoring on the bed. His face had an unusually comfortable expression. She really wanted to go over and kick him. Seeing how virtuous the allure beauty was, she bit her red lips and resisted the urge. Then, she quietly retreated to the table and sat down. Late at night, the sound of fireworks outside stopped. The whole 100 Flowers Valley was unusually quiet. There was only the sound of Yu Qianqiu's even snoring in the room. Just like that, one of them kneaded his legs for the whole night, and the other sat aside and watched for the whole night. Ziyi's expression kept changing. No one knew what she was thinking. The next day, Yu Qianqiu, who was sleeping soundly, suddenly felt a sharp pain coming from his waist. He sat up with an ah sound. He saw the allure beauty looking at him with a smile. Obviously, she was the culprit. Ziyi, who was standing by the window, heard the scream and turned around. Her face had already recovered its calmness. Chapter 408. The temptress got off the bed first. The white and tender skin, under the red gauze, was really pleasing to the eyes. Ziyi's eyes also flashed a trace of amazement. Being so close to her, she could see the graceful figure of the temptress from top to bottom. It was an irresistible temptation for both men and women. Yu Qianqiu glanced at the delicate body that left his side. He inhaled the lingering fragrance of the temptress and smacked his lips secretly. What a pity. Last night, I wanted to close my eyes and enjoy this kind of intimate contact slowly. How could I fall asleep in a daze? It's so strange. He couldn't figure it out and got off the bed. He stretched himself and felt comfortable and refreshed. He found that he had never had such a good sleep. He couldn't help but look at the temptress in surprise again. It might have something to do with her massage. Otherwise, I wouldn't have fallen asleep in front of such a beauty. At least, I wouldn't have fallen asleep so quickly. The air in the new morning couldn't dilute the abnormal atmosphere in the room. Yu Qianqiu looked at Ziyi, who didn't speak. Ziyi looked at the temptress, who was playing coquettishly by the window. It seemed that Ziyi paid special attention to every move of the temptress. She seemed to be observing and learning carefully. Really, Yu Qianqiu was slightly stunned. As the saying went, it was easy to learn bad things, but hard to learn good ones. This thing couldn't be learned casually. If Ziyi with the charm of the temptress returned to the purple bamboo forest in the South Sea, Nongzhu would definitely come to see him with a butcher's knife. Go down and eat something. Yu Qianqiu opened the door and walked out. The temptress touched her hair, nodded and smiled at Ziyi, and then followed him out. Ziyi followed her, looking at the temptress's graceful body swaying with charm, and then looking at herself. She slightly pouted and seemed to be a little disappointed. When the customers in the 100-flower house saw the three people coming down from upstairs, almost all of their gazes were focused on the graceful enchantress. She walked down leisurely like a lotus, and her every frown and movement was infinitely charming, attracting everyone's gazes. Ziyi also looked at her with a trace of envy. Yu Qianqiu looked around and bitterly smiled. He envied everyone else for being able to look at the beauties without any restraints. However, he had many misgivings and did not dare to do so. He didn't know that God was playing a joke on him. He sent two beauties to his side, but he couldn't eat them. How depressing. What he didn't know was that everyone was envious of him. They envied him for being able to take on two people at once. One was the famous enchantress of 100 charms, and the other was the rarely seen purple dress. Both were stunning beauties. Just as the three of them found a seat by the window and sat down, they saw footsteps outside. Many people were running towards the back of the mountain, and there were even people flying across the sky on swords. Yu Qianqiu looked around and frowned slightly. The back mountain was where the 100-flower palace was. Could something have happened to the 100-flower palace? Temptress, Yu Qian Mountain yelled. Ingli temptress, he to say. He, to the temptress, and said, but, and, to. Damn it. I gave you face, but you don't want it. Yu Qianqiu was immediately infuriated. Coincidentally, another person ran over. Without saying a word, he kicked out and sent that person flying. Temptress and Ze looked at each other. Yu Qianqiu walked over and grabbed the person who was groaning in pain. He asked, "Do you know me?" The man slowly came back to his senses and was about to flip out. But after he saw clearly who it was, he repeatedly nodded in panic and said, I know. Yu Qianqiu pulled his lapel and shouted in a deep voice, "What are you panicking for? What happened?" "I don't know. I heard that Yan Bugui came back with his people. They are in a stalemate outside the 100 Flowers Valley. The Cultivation Alliance is gathering all the disciples in the 100 Flowers Valley." That person said with fear. "Why did this guy come back?" Yu Qianqiu frowned and let go of him. That person ran away. On a gentle slope in the back of the mountain, the 100 Flowers Palace was located. Outside was a sea of flowers. It was supposed to be a place where hundreds of flowers were blooming. But now, it was ruined by a group of people who didn't follow the rules. This was the second time. Dongfang Chang'ao looked serious. He held his spear and guarded outside the 100 Flowers Palace. The Cultivation Alliance didn't expect that Yan Bugui would take his people to the 100 Flowers Valley when the war had already begun. This was a terrible thing. Most of the masters of the Cultivation Alliance had been transferred away. The rest were mostly second-rate masters of the various sections. Dongfang Chang'ao and Qiu Wuyuan were left to take charge of the affairs of the righteous and demon sects. Their cultivations were higher. On Yan Bugui's side, it was basically the same group of people as last time. There were more than 50 people, and all of them were above the tribulation passing stage. What was more terrifying was that there were 2 masters at the end of the tribulation passing stage. Although the Cultivation Alliance had a lot of people, they were no match for the other side. Although there were some masters in the 100 Flowers Palace, they were originally Yan Bugui's subordinates. It was good that they didn't go with him. How many people dared to attack him? At this time, Qiu Wuyuan was blocking in front of Yan Bugui and begging. Yan Bugui probably gave him some face. Otherwise he would have rushed in. Now no one could stop him. Dongfang Chang'ao looked around with a cold face. He felt that something was missing. Xiong Hui behind him asked nervously, "Elder Dongfang, doesn't Yu Qianqiu still have a group of people under him? Do you want me to call them over?" That's right. Yu Qianqiu himself was an expert. Not to mention, Ze and 100 Charms Enchantress were by his side. Although those loose cultivators were useless, it was always better to have more people. There was also a tribulation passing stage among them, right? Dongfang Chang'ao's eyes lit up. No wonder he felt that something was missing. He nodded and allowed Xiong Hui to leave. At this time, he couldn't help but feel a little emotional. That little disciple of his, that he wouldn't even look at in the eye, had become quite important now. In fact, Xiong Hui's trip was in vain. On a mountain not far from here, behind a few big trees, Yu Qianqiu and the 2 girls were watching the situation. Yu Qianqiu frowned deeply. Normally, he did not want to interfere in this matter, because Yan Bugui had many experts under him. Even if he called out the special forces, even if they won, the special forces would inevitably suffer heavy losses. After all, he had used his own spirit stones to build them up. Unless the benefits outweighed the disadvantages, it was better not to use them. But I also promised Ma Jiugu to protect Bai Hua Fairy and her daughter. So I'll just wait and see. If the mother and daughter are fine, I'll just stay put. I don't care about anything else. Qiu Wuyuan, get out of the way. Don't force me to do it, Yan Bugui shouted. It seems like his patience was running out. Qiu Wuyuan smiled bitterly and said, "Eldest senior brother, why are you doing this? Why do you have to involve the mother and daughter in your matters? Besides, they are not willing to go with you. Could it be that you want to use force against them? Whether they want to or not, I'll have to ask them first. This is my family's business. Get out of my way. Eldest brother, why are you so unwise? Are you really so sure that you will win? What if you fail? Why do you want them to follow you and risk the world's wrath? Who would dare to protect them?" Qiu Wuyuan tried his best to persuade him. The meaning behind his words was very clear. The mother and daughter pair are very safe here. It wouldn't be too late to take them away after you win. Yan Bugui coldly laughed. "I'm afraid that if you lose, the mother and daughter pair will become your hostages. You're trying so hard to stop us husband and wife from seeing each other. Have you already put them under house arrest? The last part of his sentence was very serious. So this was the reason why he tried so hard to take Bai Hua Fairy and her daughter away. Qiu Wuyuan was a bit surprised. Eldest brother, what do you mean by that? Even if the entire Chinese cultivation world loses to you, who from the righteous and evil path would dare to take the mother and daughter pair as hostages? Not only our 10,000 demons wouldn't agree, even Fuxian Island wouldn't agree. That was then, this is now, in a moment of life and death. Who would care about the mother and daughter pair? Yin Bugui spoke in a low voice. Eldest brother, what you're saying, could it be that you don't even trust Shifu? Could it be that Shifu would harm his own granddaughter? How could Guan Dinghai of Fuxian Island easily take his granddaughter as a hostage? Qiu Wuyuan shook his head and smiled bitterly. Yin Bugui's expression was uncertain. They'll be the safest if they follow me. As long as we're alive, they'll be safe. Otherwise, I won't be at ease no matter who has them. Qiu Wuyuan, seeing that we're fellow disciples, I've already done my best. Today, no matter what, I'll take them away with me. Don't force me to attack you, get out of my way. Without the decree of Shifu and sect master, I can't back down. Qiu Wuyuan slowly retreated. He knew that it was useless to continue persuading him. It seemed like he was ready to fight to the death. Yen Bugui's expression slowly turned ferocious. The conversation below was clearly heard by the three people behind the tree on the hilltop. Zi did not feel anything, but the allure demon's expression, when she looked at Yen Bugui, was a little moved. For a woman to be able to meet such a man, it was the dream of most women. She was also a woman who had such a dream. Yu Qianqiu rubbed his chin and thought. He didn't expect Yen Bugui to be such a family-oriented person. For his wife and daughter, he risked his life to enter the hinterland of China's cultivation world twice. Ma Jugu's choice back then was not wrong. It seemed like Bai Hua Fairy and her daughter wouldn't be in any danger, even if they left with him. The most important thing now was whether they were willing to go with him. If they were willing, that would be great. But if they weren't, conflict would be unavoidable. But they probably wouldn't go with him. Most women cared about their family, and Bai Hua Fairy was also a woman. How could she go against Fuxian Island, her family? That might not be the case. The battle between family and love was never set in stone. Young women were easily impulsive, while men were easily hesitant. Big men were often the opposite. At that time, men were the most likely to lose their rationality. They might even abandon their country for a smile. That's why in the past life, there was a saying that husband and wife were birds in the same forest. He hoped that his guess was wrong. That way he wouldn't have to work so hard. While Yu Qianqiu was thinking, his eyes suddenly lit up. From the Bai Hua Palace, Yan Zixia accompanied a dignified, elegant, and exceptionally beautiful woman. The woman was so beautiful that people didn't dare to look at her directly. Her beauty was enough to cause the downfall of a city. Needless to say, this woman must be Bai Hua Fairy without a doubt. Yu Qianqiu sighed to himself. Women with the title of fairy in the cultivation world really couldn't be compared to ordinary beauties. The Jade Flower Fairy from before was like this, and now Bai Hua Fairy is also like this. What a pity. All the good cabbages are taken by pigs. Chapter 409. Seeing Bai Hua Fairy leisurely walking towards them, as well as Yan Zixia next to her, Yan Wuchen excitedly walked forward calling out, Madam Zixia! Stop! Dongfang Chang'ao shouted and pointed the spear in his hand at Yan Wuchen, stopping him a few meters away. Dongfang Chang'ao, you dare to stop my family from reuniting. Today I will take your head to vent my anger. Yan Wuchen shouted. A green light shot out from his inventory bag. With a xiu sound, it shot towards Dongfang Chang'ao like lightning. Dongfang Chang'ao's expression darkened, quickly raised his spear with both hands. But as soon as the tip of the spear was covered in golden light, a black light shot out even faster. With a pung sound, it knocked the green light away. One black and one green quickly returned. Dongfang Chang'ao held his spear to protect himself, glancing to his side, only to see a 1-meter-long crescent-shaped black magic weapon floating in front of Qiu Wuyuan. slowly rotating in the air. The curved blade had a black glow, spirit energy, and killing intent coexisting. It was clearly a top-notch magic weapon. Yen Wu Gui caught the emerald flying sword, staring at the crescent-shaped magic weapon in front of Qiu Wuyuan, shouting in shock. Black Moon Pagoda! Qiu Wuyuan, how did it end up in your hands? When everyone saw Qiu Wuyuan's magic weapon, they all felt it was a bit strange. But when they heard Yen Wu Gui's words, they were also shocked. A few hundred years ago, when the sect leader of 10,000 demons, Yen Wu Chun, dominated the world, he had a high-tier magic weapon that struck fear into the hearts of the cultivators. Wasn't it called the Black Moon Pagoda? That was a peerless weapon at that time. Countless cultivators died under Yen Wu Chen's Black Moon Pagoda. Ever since the leader of 10,000 demons retired, no one in the cultivation world has seen it again. Who would have thought that it would appear in Qiu Wuyuan's hands today? It was the first time for Dongfang Chang'eo to see any of the Chinese cultivators present. Dongfang Chang'eo looked at Qiu Wuyuan in surprise. Why did Yen Wuchen give him his personal treasure? Yen Bugui's expression was a little sluggish. Behind him, the old man in embroidered robes and the old man in linen robes also looked at each other. Although they were foreign cultivators, they had also heard of the fearsome name of the Black Moon Pagoda. Black Moon Pagoda? What kind of treasure is it? Yu Qianqiu looked at the gadget and turned to look at the Enchantress of 100 Charms. He was not very experienced and had never heard of such a thing. The Allure Beauty understood what he meant. Her expression turned solemn as she transmitted her voice. The Black Moon Pagoda is said to be the most lethal weapon of the Devil Dao. Its exact origin is unknown, but it seems that Yen Wuchen's father obtained it by chance. After it fell into Yen Wuchen's hands, it became infamous in the cultivation world. Back then there was a saying, "Under the pagoda, all are dead souls." It was said that no one who fought with Yen Wuchen could survive under his Black Moon Pagoda. This shows how powerful this treasure is. Tisk tsk. What a great treasure. Yu Qianqiu looked at Qiu Wuyuan again. He couldn't help but think of the day when Yen Wuchen didn't give him any face and slapped Qiu Wuyuan in front of everyone. At that time, Qiu Wuyuan was as obedient as a child. Who would have thought that after suffering in front of everyone, he would receive such a great benefit? He then looked at the mother and daughter. Yen Zixia was biting her lips, staring at her father without saying a word. Bai Hua Fairy was even more indifferent as she looked at the distance. She didn't say a word. No one knew what she was thinking behind her calm face. This family is a bit interesting. They even dragged me into this. What the hell? Yu Qianqiu shook his head and smiled bitterly. Eldest brother, you didn't see wrong. This is Master's personal treasure, the Black Moon Pagoda. Qiu Wuyuan bowed sincerely towards the direction of the 10,000 demons. Wuyuan was adopted by Master when I was young. He personally taught me and treated me like his own son. I have always treated Master as a strict father. However, Wuyuan's talent is limited. Master has always favored me. First, he gave me the 4 generals of the demon family. Then he gave me his personal treasure, the Black Moon Pagoda. Qiu Wuyuan cannot repay Master's kindness, even if he dies 10,000 times. Shut up! Yen Bugui shouted. His face was twisted. The Yen family's descendants have not died yet. This Black Moon Pagoda is not the treasure of the 10,000 demons. It is our Yen family's inherited treasure. How can we give it to an outsider? Give it back. He was really asking for it without any hesitation. Qiu Wuyuan shook his head. Eldest brother, Master already knew that you would say something like this. He told me to pass on a message to you when I see you again. Hearing that his father had something to tell him, Yen Bugui's eyes flickered. What message? This is what Master said. Eldest senior brother, listen carefully. Qiu Wuyuan smiled bitterly. He said slowly, I originally had a son and a foster son. My son betrayed the 10,000 demons. He abandoned the Yen family's painstaking efforts and gave the 4 generals of the demon family to my foster son. My son betrayed the cultivation world of Huaxia and gave the Yen family's inherited treasure to my foster son. Unfilial son, are you ashamed? Since you have the ability to betray us again and again, you should have the ability to fight for your own things. The Yin family's things do not belong to you. Don't ask for it shamelessly. Wu Yuan, if he dares to ask for it from you, tell him everything I said. Let's see if he can face the ancestors of the Yin family. Yin Bugui felt like he was struck by lightning. He looked at Qiu Wu Yuan with a pale face. He knew that Qiu Wu Yuan would not lie in front of everyone. These words were undoubtedly from his father. Qiu Wu Yuan said helplessly, "Eldest brother, these are Master's original words. I didn't change a single word." Palace Master Yan, don't lose your composure. With Palace Master Yan's spirit, the 10,000 demons can only restrain you. How can you fulfill your ambitions? When you control the entire cultivation world of Huaxia in the future, who would dare to say a word against you? The old man in brocade robe chuckled. He looked at the old man in linen robe beside him. This time, Yen Bugui returned to the 100 Flowers Valley. Although it was because he missed his wife and daughter, there were two people behind it. The headquarters of the Cultivation Alliance was empty. If they took the opportunity to launch a sneak attack, even if they could not cause great losses to the cultivation world of Huaxia, they could still greatly damage their morale and bring invisible benefits to the battle ahead. Otherwise, who would have nothing better to do and come all the way here to fight for his wife? They were not really his subordinates. The two of them looked at the increasing number of cultivators from Huaxia and smiled. One disagreement would be the beginning of a massacre. The more casualties they caused, the more they could damage the morale of the Cultivation Alliance, and the more advantageous it would be for the battle ahead. Shut up! Qiu Wu Yuan shouted at the old man in brocade robe. My eldest brother's current situation was instigated by you too. You have the ambition of wolves and evil intentions. How dare you speak so arrogantly here? The old man in brocade robe raised his eyebrows and chuckled. I'm not your eldest brother. If you talk too much, you might lose the Black Moon Pagoda and your head. I'll give face to Palace Master Yin for now. I hope you won't say anything to anger me again. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. How dare you? Dongfang Chang, Ao shouted, holding his spear in one hand and standing next to Qiu Wu Yuan. The two of them exchanged glances. Although they've been enemies for many years, they have a tacit understanding. They've already given up on the righteous and demonic paths, and are ready to fight side by side. Since you don't know what's good for you, then I won't be polite. The old man in brocade robe smirked. His hands came out from behind his back. He finally had an excuse to act. Chang Ao Wu Yuan, stand down. A slightly dignified female voice was heard. Dongfang Chang, Ao, and Qiu Wu Yuan turned around, only to see the beautiful Baihua fairy was already walking towards them. The two of them were a bit surprised, exchanged glances but didn't say anything. They only slightly bowed and stood on her left and right, on high alert to prevent any mishaps. Baihua fairy coldly stared at the old man in brocade robe, her tone frigid. Who are you, daring to provoke my Baihua palace? Are you trying to bully us mother and daughter, because our Baihua palace doesn't have a man to lead it? Her man is right in front of her, yet she still dares to say such words. Yu Qianqiu, who was hiding in the shadows, shook his head. Not only is this woman beautiful, but she's also very smart. No wonder Baihua Palace isn't led by Yin Bugui, but by her. Her words are so sharp that they cut straight to the heart. Fuck. You want me to protect her? I think it's more like she's protecting me. Ma Jiugu is going in the opposite direction. Sure enough, when the old man saw Baihua Fairy's beauty, his eyes filled with admiration, was stunned speechless. He immediately turned around to look at the pale-faced Yin Bugui. This woman's words are trying to drive a wedge between them. If I argue with her, Yin Bugui might turn against me. Although I'm not afraid of turning against him, now's not the time to do so. I still need his cooperation. The brocade-robed old man remembered that man who and his fellow brothers must have taken some kind of wrong medicine. They're all dead set on following the Yin father and son. His expression couldn't help but twitch a bit. As he retreated, he said, Baihua Fairy truly lives up to her name. Dongfang Chang'eo and Qiu Wu Yuan exchanged glances. Even their combined efforts couldn't scare them away. But they were all taken care of by Baihua Fairy, with just a few words. People really can't be compared to each other. Baihua Fairy's beautiful eyes looked around, scowling. My 100 Flowers Valley used to be a peaceful place, but now it's a mess. This palace doesn't welcome you. Get out of 100 Flowers Valley immediately. Saying so, she coldly turned around and walked away. Mu Shui, listen to me. Yan Bugui raised his hand and shouted. Dongfang Chang'eo, and Qiu Wuyuan immediately blocked his way. Qiu Wuyuan shook his head. Eldest brother, sister-in-law has made it very clear. You should go back. Mu Shui. Yu Qianqiu muttered, then turned around to look at the 100 Charms beauty. The latter smiled and sent her voice. Bai Hua Fairy's real name is Guan Mu Shui. Yu Qianqiu nodded in understanding. The 100 Charms beauty sent her voice again. Now you know the benefits of having me by your side. Yu Qianqiu rolled his eyes. Who the hell knows what you're thinking? Hearing that, Bai Hua Fairy stopped and turned around to look at Yan Bugui. Ever since they came out, this was the first time she looked at him directly. Her face was expressionless. Listen to you? Listen to what you say. You've lied to me for so many years. Don't tell me you think it's not enough, and want to keep lying? Am I Guan Mu Shui? So easy to bully in your eyes. Forget it. I don't want to talk about the past anymore. I'm tired, and I don't want to hear anymore. If you still care about the past, then return peace to my 100 Flower Valley, and leave with your people. After saying that, he turned around again. Chapter 410. Mu Shui. Do you still remember the time before Bai Hua Palace was established, when we had no one to rely on? Yan Bugui loudly shouted. Hearing that, Bai Hua Fairy stopped again, but this time, she didn't turn around. Seeing that she had stopped, Yan Bugui said in a loud and emotional voice. Back then, it wasn't easy for you and I to be together, and we faced so much resistance. Although we were ridiculed and scolded, we still persevered. Before Bai Hua Palace was established, did the 10,000 demons or Fuxian Island care for us? No, no one cared if we lived or died. It wasn't until you and I worked so hard to establish this Bai Hua Palace that we managed to gain a foothold in the cultivation world. How could outsiders understand the hardships we went through? Bai Hua Fairy didn't move, she didn't leave, nor did she turn around. Perhaps she was also thinking about the hard times back then. Dongfang Chang'eo and Qiu Wuyuan exchanged glances, both of them knew about it. Back then, Fuxian Island and 10,000 demons were pressured by both the righteous and evil path. Even their sect masters, Guanding Hai and Yan Wuchun, had to take the blame and step down. So who would care about them when they were in a fit of anger? For a very long time, they really didn't lend a helping hand to the two of them, leaving them to fend for themselves. It wasn't until Bai Hua Palace became the trading hub of China's cultivation world that the two great sects secretly re-established their relationship with it. Then again, if the two of them didn't have the backing of the number one sect in the righteous and evil path, it would have been even more difficult for them to establish their own sects in the cultivation world. Back then, I told you that one day, I won't let anyone look down on you anymore. Perhaps you think it was only in the heat of the moment that I uttered those words. But I took it as a vow, and I've always been fighting for it. Thus, I've been working hard in secret for 100 years. But who knew that it would be destroyed by that fellow Yu Qianqiu? Otherwise, the vow I made would just be around the corner. Hearing him mention Yu Qianqiu, Ziyi looked at Yu Qianqiu curiously. She had never heard of this. She didn't know what Yu Qianqiu had done to destroy the plan that Yu Qianqiu had painstakingly worked on for 100 years. She saw Yu Qianqiu's mouth split open, looking like he was in great pain as he smiled at her. His smile was very ugly. On the other side, the enchantress of 100 Charms was silently poking his waist with a finger. Yan, why are you dragging me into the matter between you and your wife? Your wife and I didn't cheat on you. Yu Qianqiu gritted his teeth and endured the pain. The enchantress of 100 Charms had a bad habit. She liked to poke people with her fingers at the slightest provocation. One day, he would let her have a taste of her pain. Everything I've done is for you. Don't tell me I'm not worthy of your forgiveness? Yan Bugui extended his hand and said, Mu Shui, come with me. If it was really for me, you should have told me earlier. You wouldn't have kept it a secret for 100 years. Bai Hua Fairy didn't turn around and continued walking. Don't you know me? I've given up everything to be with you. I've never disagreed with any of your decisions. After I found out, I would only support you and not drag you down. Yet you kept it a secret from me. Clearly, you've always been on guard against me. I didn't want to make you worry. I didn't want you to work too hard, Yen Bugui loudly explained. We both understand each other. Whether or not it's an excuse, you should understand. There's no need to explain anything else. Just take your people and leave. I don't want to see you again. Bai Hua Fairy still didn't turn around. Yen Zixia followed on the side, silently obeying her. Occasionally she would look back. On one side was her father, and on the other side was her mother. What else could she do? The brocade-robed old man and the linen-robed old man exchanged glances and nodded. The former sent his voice to Yen Bugui. Palace Master Yen, your madam has already made up her mind. I think it would be better if we forcefully kidnap the mother and daughter back to Everlasting Island. The daughter is mother's flesh and blood. It would be better if the young palace master comes out to persuade them. Otherwise, they'll eventually become hostages in the hands of the Cultivation Alliance. At that point we'll be stuck. Yen Bugui sent his voice back. That's not a good idea. She has a strong personality. I'm afraid that she'll do something that she won't be able to regret. Palace Master Yen, if you can't make a decision, you have to make a decision quickly. How about this? As long as you agree, my junior brother and I will act together to guarantee that we'll kidnap the mother and daughter, not giving them a chance to harm themselves. What do you think? The brocade-robed old man continued to persuade him. Seeing that Bai Hua Fairy had already entered the palace gate, Yen Bugui gritted his teeth and sent his voice back. Then I'll have to trouble Senior Chang and Senior Feng to ensure their safety. The brocade-robed old man's face lit up, nodded to the linen-robed old man and suddenly shouted, "Kill!" As soon as the order was given, the two old men behind Yen Bugui had already disappeared. Dongfang Chang'eo and Qiu Wuyuan were both shocked and shouted at the same time. Not good. The two of them quickly flew back into Baihua Palace. But compared to a Tribulation Realm late-stage cultivator's teleportation, their speed was too slow. Baihua Fairy probably didn't think that Yen Bugui would order people to use force on her. Hearing the commotion behind her, before she could even react, the acupuncture point on her back was instantly struck. A powerful surge of true essence rushed into her body, cutting off any chance of resistance. Yen Zixia was also the same. Yu Qianqiu, who was hiding in the shadows, thought that Yen Bugui was deeply in love with his wife and wouldn't use force. But he didn't expect this to be the case. He didn't expect the foreign cultivators to instigate Yen Bugui. The Baihua Palace disciples guarding the palace gate were shocked and immediately attacked the two old men with their flying swords. But with their cultivation, this kind of action is nothing but child's play for a Tribulation Realm late-stage cultivator. The two of them unleashed a powerful wave of true qi to knock the flying swords away. Several disciples screamed in pain, spat out blood as they were sent flying and died on the spot. Baihua Fairy and Yen Zixia's shoulders were being held down. They couldn't even move their fingers. Dongfang Chang'eo and Qiu Wuyuan, who just arrived, saw that the mother and daughter were being restrained by the two Tribulation Realm late-stage cultivators. So they didn't dare to act rashly. The brocade-robed old man smiled at the two of them. I know you two are the ones in charge here. Tell your people to stop. Otherwise these two beauties are going to suffer. Screams and screams could be heard outside. The group of foreign cultivators had already started a massacre. The Cultivation Alliance's members who stayed behind were all mixed in cultivation. So how could they be a match for them? They were all killed in just a few moves. But facing a foreign enemy, their blood was roused and they all charged forward without fear of death. Even if they were afraid of death, there was no way to escape. If they ran away from this battle, there would probably be no place for them in the world. Blood was boiling everywhere. In the blink of an eye, many people had already given up their lives. Such a heroic scene caused Dongfang Chang'eo and Qiu Wuyuan to look at each other, then quickly made the decision to retreat. The brocade-robed old man used the mother and daughter to threaten them, but it didn't work at all. Not only did the two of them not tell the Cultivation Alliance to stop, they even gave up on the safety of Baihua Fairy and Yen Zixia. Their anger turned into endless killing intent. as they returned to the battlefield with all their might. Ah! Dongfang Chang! Ao shouted angrily as he thrust his spear forward. Below, a foreign tribulation realm early-stage cultivator, who had just used a flying sword to take the lives of 2 people, sneered, and was about to summon his sword to kill again. Suddenly, he heard a loud roar from the sky. When he looked up, a golden spear had directly knocked away his flying sword, and was heading towards him. He was scared out of his wits, and hurriedly tried to escape. But how could Dongfang Chang Ao let him go? Relying on his superior speed, he raised his spear and cut him in half, sending his head flying. Dongfang Chang Ao didn't stop. He turned around with his spear, and looked for another person to fight. On the other side, Qiu Wuyuan was even more ferocious than Dongfang Chang Ao. The Black Moon Pagoda danced around his body like a ghost, following him wherever he went. Every time he attacked, he would destroy the opponent's magic tools or magic treasures. Then, the Black Moon Pagoda moved like a phantom, reaping the opponent's life with lightning speed. In the blink of an eye, Qiu Wuyuan had taken the lives of 3 tribulation passing stage cultivators. The Black Moon Pagoda was indeed the most ferocious weapon of the diabolism. It was indeed powerful. With such power, when the foreign tribulation passing stage cultivators saw Qiu Wuyuan rushing towards them with the Black Moon Pagoda, they quickly dodged it. One of them was holding the Golden Origin Spear, while the other was carrying the Black Moon Pagoda. They fought fiercely and were stained with blood. They killed more than 10 people in a row, which greatly boosted the morale of their side. The people of the Cultivation Alliance immediately fought back with all their might. Although they knew that they were going to die, their morale was high. They only wanted to entangle the other foreign cultivators, and wait for Dongfang Chang Ao and Qiu Wuyuan to come and avenge them. This scene caused Dongfang Chang Ao and Qiu Wuyuan's eyes to turn red. They roared in anger and grief. The golden light and the black shadow would not stop until one of them was dead. The old man was stunned by this sudden change. He knew that these 2 were the strongest among the people on the other side, and seeing how respectful they were towards Bai Hua Fairy, he decided to use the lives of Bai Hua Fairy and her daughter to threaten them. But who would have thought that at this crucial moment, they wouldn't even care about their threats? The 2 of them tacitly turned around and killed without any hesitation, causing so many people on their side to run away. He really didn't expect the 2 of them to be so strong. The tribulation passing stage cultivators he brought with him were all killed, without being able to fight back. From this, it could be seen that the 2 of them were indeed people sent by the number 1 sects of the righteous and diabolism. They were not simple. Yen Bugui stood alone outside the battlefield, watching his junior brother fight with his life on the line, as well as a group of Chinese cultivators fighting angrily. He suddenly felt his hands and feet go numb. He had always thought that all Chinese cultivators were selfish, and that the so-called righteousness was nothing but a joke. He never thought that he would see such a scene. He even doubted that with the help of a group of foreign cultivators, could he really unify the entire Chinese cultivation world. He was originally full of confidence, but now his willpower was shaken. Looking at the restrained Bai Hua Fairy and Yin Zixia, he saw that the 2 of them had both turned away from the cruel battlefield, their eyes filled with grief and indignation, staring at him. Yen Zixia's eyes were filled with tears. The hatred in her eyes made him shudder. Yen Bugui had never seen his daughter look at him like that before. The brocade-robed old man was originally controlling Bai Hua Fairy, but right now his face was pale as he put his hand on Yen Zixia's shoulder and spoke in a low voice. "Junior brother, leave this to me. You go kill those 2 for me." Chapter 411. Zi had never seen such a scene before. She didn't know what righteousness was, but she felt an inexplicable sadness that she had never felt before. The temptress lost all her charm at this moment, and her body was trembling uncontrollably. She decided to join the battle, but just as she took a step forward, her arm was grabbed by Yu Qianqiu. Although she told Qiu Wuyuan that the war in the cultivation world had nothing to do with her, she actually believed that by staying by Yu Qianqiu's side, she would be able to better use his hidden strength. When she glanced at him, she saw that he was looking down expressionlessly, unbelievably calm. She instantly felt a chill in her heart. She didn't expect him to just stand by and watch. Just stand by and watch, don't grab me. The temptress's face was as cold as frost. Why are you so agitated? Yu Qianqiu didn't have the respect a disciple had for his mistress. He snorted coldly and said, "What a woman's view. No wonder the illusion palace was destroyed in your hands. Those who don't plan for the world can't plan for a moment, and those who don't plan for the overall situation can't plan for a region. So what if some people die? Don't tell me that you, the master of a palace, don't know the principle of mercy not leading an army? I'm here, why are you panicking?" Zi didn't know so many principles, but she looked at the temptress in deep thought. In fact, she didn't know what to do in such a situation. She felt that Yu Qianqiu was right to say such nice words. The temptress was stunned. She didn't expect that Yu Qianqiu would dare to use the manly way on her. But strangely, she felt that it was very useful. She looked at her arm that was being grabbed by him, and the frost on her face disappeared. She thought, as long as you don't just stand by and watch. Yu Qianqiu had been paying attention to what was happening below. When he saw that the old man in linen had handed over control of Yan Zixia to the old man in embroidered robes, he quickly glanced at Dongfang Chang'eo and Qiu Wuyuan. His eyes narrowed and he pointed at the old man in linen robes. "Z, keep an eye on him. If he dares to make a move, stop him immediately and kill him without mercy." Z nodded heavily and said, "In." Then a piece of purple-black bamboo appeared in her hand. Hearing this, the enchantress of 100 Charm immediately felt much more at ease. Sure enough, as soon as the old man in linen handed over the man, he shot towards Qiu Wuyuan. Zi teleported and disappeared almost at the same time. Qiu Wuyuan, who was in the midst of fighting, was shocked when he heard the sound of something flying towards him. He knew that a top-notch expert had arrived. Taking the opportunity to look back, he felt that something was wrong. There was a world of difference between an expert in the final phase of the tribulation stage and a cultivator in the middle phase of the tribulation stage. Although he had the Black Moon Pagoda, he was not arrogant enough to fight against an expert in the final phase of the tribulation stage. On the other side, Dongfang Chang, Ao also shouted a warning, "Be careful, Qiu Wuyuan." He also brandished his spear and rushed over to lend a hand. Otherwise, if Qiu Wuyuan was defeated, he would not be able to save Qiu Wuyuan alone. However, his opponent also understood that once the old man in linen robes dealt with Qiu Wuyuan, his next target would definitely be Dongfang Chang'eo. Immediately, 3 foreign cultivators rushed over and formed a triangle to hold Dongfang Chang'eo back. They did not aim to defeat him, they just needed to hold him back. Before the old man in linen robes arrived, a silver light had already left his hand and shot towards Qiu Wuyuan with a strong current of air. Its speed and power were hard to predict, but Qiu Wuyuan was also being held back and could not get away. His eyes were filled with grief and indignation, and he was about to make his last attack. "Elder Qiu, run!" A group of weak Huaxia cultivators rushed over in a frenzy, attacking the foreign cultivators who were trapping Qiu Wuyuan without any regard for their lives. There were even several cultivators who soared into the sky, wanting to risk their lives to block the old man in linen robes. However, they were struck by a casual palm strike from the old man, and the tyrannical force immediately smashed their flesh and blood into pieces. None of them were spared. Yin Bugui, who was outside, saw his junior brother's reaction and smacked his lips with difficulty. After all, they had been brothers for many years and could not be thrown away so easily. However, since things had already come to this, there was no turning back. "Fight!" Suddenly, a beautiful woman's shout was heard. A black shadow shot over and directly hit the silver light released by the old man in linen robes away, immediately saving Qiu Wuyuan from danger. Zi appeared out of thin air and recalled the purplish-black bamboo. She shouted again, "Fight!" The black shadow shot towards the old man in linen robes again. A strong current of air broke through the air, and the old man was shocked. He shook his arms and summoned the silver light. Together, they soared into the sky and barely avoided the black shadow. When Qiu Wuyuan saw the person who saved him, he instantly became spirited and said, "Thank you, Miss Zi." In fact, he was not the only one who felt that way. Everyone else was also spirited. When they were in danger, a strong help suddenly came. This kind of feeling was hard to understand, even if it was just a ray of hope. Moreover, everyone knew that Zi had been by Yu Qianqiu's side for a long time. Since she was here, that guy should be here soon. The guy who was not very famous, but could control 1,000 swords appeared in everyone's mind. That guy was an expert in fighting. Moreover, he had more than 600 rogue cultivators under him. Even if they were useless, they could still be of some use. When they thought of more than 600 people coming, everyone couldn't help but look forward to it. Zi raised her head and looked at the sky, then quickly looked at Qiu Wuyuan, who was trapped. No one knew what she was thinking, but she shot out the rod in her hand with a swoosh sound. The strong wind blew, and the people below were no match for her. They were all scared out of their wits. However, there was still one person who couldn't escape as fast as the rod. Because he was the target, he immediately let out a scream. After smashing one of the people who trapped Qiu Wuyuan to death, the rod shot back and accompanied Zi to the sky. A linen robe and Zi quickly fought in the sky. From time to time, the sound of fight, fight, fight could be heard. It seemed that Ziyi's great skill of shifting positions was indeed useful. It was almost suppressing the old man in linen robes. The old man was in danger and was suffering unspeakably. Only then did he realize that his opponent's skills were not just a little higher than his. Especially that strange body movement. It was almost impossible to defend against it. What a joke, although Ziyi didn't know much about the ways of the world. But in terms of cultivation, Nongzhu spared no effort in teaching her. After all, they were master and disciple in name, but in reality, Ziyi was his daughter. When he couldn't find a suitable opponent for his daughter, he would personally go and spar with her. Think about it. A person who could fight against an ascended realm middle stage cultivator for a long time would naturally be able to fight against a tribulation passing stage cultivator with ease. The old man in linen robes who was restraining by Hua Fairy and Yan Zixia stared at the sky with a serious expression, then suddenly shouted, "Zi, my brother and I have no grudge against you. Why aren't you staying in your southern sea purple bamboo forest? Why are you here to fight against us?" Zi was in the middle of the fight, so she didn't have time to answer him. Her only reply was fight, fight, fight. Beauty of 100 Charms stared at the fight in the sky, thinking about why she purposely provoked her last night. Now that she thought about it, she couldn't help but feel a little scared. This Zi looks like she doesn't know much about the ways of the world. She didn't expect her to be so strong. Seems like it's better not to provoke her, otherwise, if she gets angry, no one will be able to protect her. Yu Qianqiu saw that Zi had the upper hand and wouldn't be in danger, so he breathed a sigh of relief. His gaze turned back to the battlefield where the number of casualties was increasing, silently calculating. The old man in linen robes wouldn't let go of the mother and daughter easily. The old man in linen robes was being restrained by Zi, and the two late-stage tribulation passing stage cultivators couldn't attack, so their threat was greatly reduced. It's time for me to act. Otherwise, if Zi shows up and I don't show up, I won't be able to explain myself to everyone. Yu Qianqiu silently counted the remaining 30-plus cultivators. It seems like Dongfeng Chang'ao and Qiu Wuyuan had used up too much of their energy, so they were starting to show signs of exhaustion. His gaze became determined, and a ball of blue fire appeared in his hand. The Allure Beauty's pupils shrank, not knowing what he was going to do, but the blue fire gradually condensed into a fireball in his palm, and Yu Qianqiu suddenly threw the blue fireball directly into the sky. A ray of blue light exploded below the battle between Zi and the old man in linen robes, and the high temperature made the two of them a little uncomfortable. The sudden abnormal scene made the old man in linen robes raise his head to look, and many people also took the opportunity to look, only to see the words "Prepare for battle, gather and surround them" condensed in the blue fire in the sky. These words didn't appear for long, and gradually disappeared in the sky. However, the meaning of these words was thought-provoking. Prepare for battle, gather and surround them appeared at this time. Was there even a need to think? The only thing everyone was worried about was not knowing whether it was a friend or a foe. It's Yu Qianqiu's blue fire. Someone shouted from below, and the Cultivation Alliance immediately shouted, "Help is here! Our help is here!" The group of foreign cultivators felt a little guilty, and while fighting, they were distracted from time to time, not knowing what kind of powerful help made their opponents so happy. The old man in linen robes in the sky didn't dare to be distracted to deal with Ze, but suddenly found that a large number of people in black suddenly appeared from all directions, like a swarm of locusts. He didn't know where they came from, but there were at least 500 or 600 people, and all of them were flying quickly in the sky. Based on this alone, it could be concluded that these people in black all had the cultivation of the tribulation stage. Otherwise, even a nascent soul late-stage cultivator couldn't fly so fast in the sky. 500 or 600 tribulation stage cultivators. There were so many hidden masters in the 100 Flowers Valley. This was bad. When the old man in linen robes realized this, he was shocked, and hurriedly sent a voice transmission to the old man in linen robes below. "Senior brother, be careful." The voice transmission stopped abruptly, and the old man in linen robes felt a great pain in his back, thinking that it was over. Looking down, he saw a black shadow flying out from his chest where his heart was. At the moment when he was distracted, his defense was a bit lax, and Ze finally found a chance to kill him. The old man in linen robes suddenly looked up to the sky, saw everything, and immediately shouted, "Ze bitch, you dare!" Bai Hua Fairy and Yin Xia were suddenly gripped by the strength of his hand. They felt like their shoulders were about to be crushed, but they couldn't say anything. Fight! Ze was also ruthless, hitting the opponent's vital point in one strike. Seeing the opponent falling down, she still wasn't willing to give up, so she called back the bamboo with a strong gust of wind, directly smashing the head of the half-dead person into nothingness. Sure enough, she carried out Yu Qianqiu's kill without mercy to the end. Chapter 412. The purplish-black bamboo shook off the dirt on its body in the air, then flew back to Ziyi's hand. The old man in embroidered robes bellowed, "Slut!" Ziyi scoffed. Without needing anyone to call her, she directly landed in front of him, holding the bamboo in her hand, her face cold as she slowly approached. "It seems like she hasn't had enough yet." Yu Qianqiu silently felt bad. This little girl is a one-track mind. She only worships old man Bai's ruthlessness, so she doesn't care about the lives of Bai Hua Fairy and her daughter. So he hurriedly told 100 Charms Enchantress, "Send your voice to her, tell her not to act rashly, be careful that they don't hurt the mother and daughter." 100 Charms Beauty understood the severity of the situation, and quickly sent her voice. Ziyi glanced over, then stayed in front of the old man without moving. Seeing his junior brother die, the old man originally wanted to leave the mother and daughter behind to take revenge, but seeing Ziyi coming over, he immediately remembered that he's no match for her. So he held the mother and daughter tightly in his hands and spoke in a low voice. "If you dare act recklessly, I'll make the mother and daughter die in front of you first." Ziyi didn't say anything, only stood there and stared at him, giving him a lot of pressure. The black-clothed people landed from all directions, surrounding the entire battlefield. Each of them had a murderous look on their faces, ready to attack as soon as the order is given. The old man and Yen Bugui looked around, both shocked. These people definitely aren't their people. It's Yu Qianqiu's rogue cultivators. The Cultivation Alliance's side cheered. They confirmed their identities from the rogue cultivator on their chests. Aren't they the rogue cultivators that Yu Qianqiu brought here? But then they noticed something was wrong. Their aura is completely different from the previous rogue cultivators. Originally, they didn't stand in a proper manner, and even if they were to stand together, they wouldn't be able to form a team. However, as these people stood there casually, a sharp aura that was ready to be unleashed was obvious. Especially the eyes that were exposed under their masks were filled with killing intent, and each of them were like wolves waiting for an opportunity to hunt. The allured temptress looked at these people in surprise. Although she could see the words rogue cultivators on their chests, she thought more about it. The heroes who robbed them were all masked and dressed in black. Could it be them? He subconsciously glanced at Yu Qianqiu, only to see him walking out from behind a few trees with a calm face, with his hands behind his back. Standing on the hillside, His eyes scanned the surrounding black-clothed men, and an arrogant look appeared on his face. All of them were at the early stage of the crossing calamity. There were more than 600 of them. Where did he get all this from? The enchantress of 100 charms secretly clicked her tongue and silently followed him out. Suddenly, she heard the sound of wind coming from both sides and immediately became alert. "Don't be nervous, he's one of us." Yu Qianqiu glanced at her and said indifferently. Two black-clothed men quickly flashed over and stood side by side in front of Yu Qianqiu. They placed their right hands on their chests and bowed silently. The surrounding 600 black-clothed men also turned to face Yu Qianqiu and bowed in the same way. That indescribable aura was very stressful. Yu Qianqiu nodded slightly, and the black-clothed men resumed their battle preparations. The two black-clothed men in front of him flashed to the left and right of Yu Qianqiu and waited for orders. The allured temptress was slightly stunned and could only stand guard behind Yu Qianqiu. In the eyes of the people at the foot of the hill, Yu Qianqiu and the black-clothed men on his left and right were indifferently observing the battle situation below. Yan Bugui's expression changed the moment he saw Yu Qianqiu. This guy had ruined his plans time and time again. It was really infuriating. "Yu Qianqiu, why haven't you asked your men to make a move? When are you going to wait?" Qiu Wuyuan shouted from below. It could be seen that his qi was indeed running out after the continuous fierce battle with Dongfang Chang'eo. "Elder Qiu, I'm really sorry we're late. Please lead everyone away from the encirclement with Elder Dongfang. Don't worry about the matter of revenge. Leave it to us, the rogue cultivators, so that we won't be affected." Yu Qianqiu shouted loudly. The allured temptress behind him rolled her eyes. They were obviously early, but he said they were late. She stretched out her sharp index finger and wanted to poke his waist again. Who knew that the two black-clothed men beside him would suddenly turn their heads and stare coldly at her? Although the allured temptress's cultivation was higher than the two of them, she still felt a little creeped out by their sharp gaze. She embarrassedly withdrew her hand. Dongfang Chang'eo and Qiu Wuyuan exchanged glances from afar. Then, they shouted at the crowd together. "Everyone, retreat from the rogue cultivator's encirclement quickly." As they spoke, they struggled to break away from the entanglement of the few people. As they retreated, they did their best to provide cover for everyone. However, the foreign cultivators also understood that if they were to retreat, the opposing black-clothed men would most likely kill them. So they all stuck close to them and pestered them. Yu Qianqiu frowned and shouted softly, "Command support." "Yes." The two black-clothed men replied in unison, and quickly made an order with their hand signals. The surrounding black-clothed men immediately formed into a well-trained three-man battle formation. They quickly shrunk the encirclement and closed in on the people who were fighting. The allured temptress was shocked. Just a few simple hand signals were able to command so many tribulation passing stage cultivators, as if they were one person. It was simply unbelievable. Yan Bugui and the old man in embroidered robes turned pale with fright. They felt a serious threat. Ziyi was somewhat dumbfounded as she looked at her surroundings. Those black-clothed people were cold and intimidating. Were these the same people that Yu Qianqiu had brought to wander around previously? The black-clothed men directly passed by the 100 Flowers Palace, ignoring Ziyi and the old man in embroidered robes. They only surrounded the people outside the 100 Flowers Palace. The encirclement shrank like a sieve, gradually filtering out the disciples of the various sects of the Cultivation Alliance, and forcing the foreign cultivators back. There were also some people who wanted to take advantage of the entanglement to escape. However, as soon as they stepped forward, the groups of three in front of them immediately separated one person from each other. The encirclement formation was not chaotic at all. However, several people attacked at the same time. When the foreign cultivator released his flying sword, he didn't even have the chance to take it back. He was cut into several pieces on the spot and instantly killed. Occasionally, there were a few who wanted to fly into the sky and escape, but they all met the same fate. The power displayed by the combined attack immediately shocked everyone present. The people that Yan Bugui brought with him no longer dared to test their sharpness, and were all forced to retreat. All of the surviving Cultivation Alliance cultivators were finally able to safely retreat. In front of the 100 Flowers Palace, within a radius of 100 meters, more than 30 foreign cultivators were surrounded in panic, not knowing what would happen next. As soon as Dongfang Chang, Ao and Qiu Wuyuan came out, they immediately flew to Yu Qianqiu's side. When they saw the two black-clothed men beside him, they sized them up curiously. Qiu Wuyuan said in surprise, "Yu Qianqiu, are they those rogue cultivators?" Yu Qianqiu looked at the two people who were covered in blood and said with a smile, "If it's not them, where would I come from?" As he said this, he pointed at Yin Bugui and ordered his men, "Capture this person alive. I want to exchange him for hostages. Leave no one alive. Kill." The two of them quickly gave the order, and the encirclement formation changed again, becoming a small team of 10 people. Half of them quickly rushed into the encirclement, and the other half quickly closed the encirclement again. A strangulation battle, with an absolute advantage, was displayed in front of the surviving members of the Cultivation Alliance, and it really shocked everyone. The opponent almost only had one chance to attack. Once the magic weapons or magic treasures in their hands were used, they would never be able to return, and they themselves would become a lamb, waiting to be slaughtered. Facing more than 300 cultivators at the Crossing Calamity stage, more than 30 cultivators at the Crossing Calamity stage were quickly separated. Facing a group attack alone, and the opponent's cooperation was seamless, one could imagine the outcome. It was a battle without any suspense. The black-clothed and masked rogue cultivators killed all the opponents in a moment, at the cost of no casualties. Yin Bugui looked around in horror. He was really the only one left. He never dreamed that there were so many Crossing Calamity stage experts hiding in the 100 Flowers Valley. Fortunately, the opponent obviously didn't want to kill him. The brocade-clothed old man looked down with a pale face. Although he wasn't surrounded, the purple clothes in front of him made it difficult for him to escape. Now the mother and daughter in his hands were his last life-saving talismans, and he could only hold on to them tightly. Yu Qianqiu shouted at him, "Old man in flowery clothes, listen up, I don't want to waste time with you. Let them go immediately, and I will let you and Yin Bugui go." "Words are no proof. How can I believe you?" The brocade-clothed old man shouted immediately. "I, Yu Qianqiu, value my credibility the most, and I have never gone back on my words. I guarantee with my credibility, you can rest assured," Yu Qianqiu said. The brocade-clothed old man sneered. "Credibility? Do you really think this old man is a 3-year-old child? If you swear an oath, this old man thinks it's better than credibility. You don't have the right to bargain with me. I said I will let you go, so of course I will keep my word," Yu Qianqiu coldly said. "I will count to 10, if you still don't let them go, Ze. Bring me that old man's head." Then he stared at Yin Bugui and said in a low voice, "And don't let him live." "No." Dongfang Chang Ao and Qiu Wuyuan both shouted. Dongfang Chang, Ao shook his head. "Yu Qianqiu, we can negotiate." Bai Hua Fairy had already closed her eyes, while Yin Zixia tearfully stared at Yu Qianqiu, but he ignored her. "I have never gone back on my words. If you have the guts, then save the mother and daughter right now," Yu Qianqiu coldly said to Dongfang Chang Ao, then turned around and began to count. 1, 2, 3. And his speed wasn't slow either. Ze slowly stepped forward. The brocade-clothed old man's face changed. He didn't think that she wouldn't even consider, and forced him to make a decision, and in such a hurry. When he counted to 8, he finally shouted, "Wait. If you have something to say, then say it. I don't have the patience." Yu Qianqiu coldly snorted and continued to count. 9. "I agree," the brocade-clothed old man shouted. "I hope you can keep your promise." He really didn't have a choice. Even if he killed the mother and daughter, and left Yin Bugui to escape from Ze, such a big matter would eventually reach Yin Juexing's ears. It's impossible to hide it. With Yin Juexing's relationship with Man Hu and the others, sooner or later they won't let him go. He might as well take a gamble. As long as he can escape, even letting the mother and daughter go is the same. At least he can explain it to Yin Juexing. What if they keep their promise? That's even better. Hearing that, Dongfang Chang'eo and Qiu Wuyuan's hearts that were already in their throats finally calmed down. "It's good that you agree. In this world, you can doubt anything. But I, Yu Qianqiu's character, you definitely don't need to doubt it. It's always been tested. Yu Qianqiu nodded and casually said. Chapter 413. Everyone's eyes were focused on the old man, cautiously waiting for his next move. No one noticed, unknowingly, Yu Qianqiu has become the leader of this place. In fact, this was also his goal. He could have acted earlier. That way the Cultivation Alliance wouldn't have to pay such a heavy price. But he waited until the Cultivation Alliance couldn't hold on any longer. When even the brave Dongfang Chang'eo and Qiu Yuan were at a disadvantage, only then did he act. Although adding flowers to a brocade is good, it's not as good as sending charcoal in the snow to achieve his goal. After the Cultivation Alliance sacrificed hundreds of lives, he managed to turn the tide. Now he's the leader here. Dongfang Chang'eo and Qiu Yuan can't interfere. From today onwards, no one in the cultivation world can say that he, the hero, is the scum of the cultivation world. He's long since disliked this title. Now that Yanbu Gui and the others have arrived, of course he has to take advantage of the situation. Since you dare to call me a scum of the cultivation world, then I'll make you pay with your blood to take back this title. From the moment he was watching the battle from the shadows, he already had this thought. Only when the situation was out of his expectations did he start to interfere. Although he agreed, the old man was still a bit hesitant, but in the end he still gritted his teeth and pushed by Hua Fairy and Yan Zixia away. Dongfang Chang, Ao and Qiu Yuan quickly went to protect the mother and daughter. The old man looked at Yanbu Gui who was surrounded below, then shouted to Yu Qianqiu. Yu Qianqiu, I've let them go. It's time to fulfill your promise. Your worries are unnecessary. I've already said that you can doubt anything, but you definitely don't need to doubt my character. I've always been a man of my words. I've never discounted them. Yu Qianqiu waved his hand. Let them go. With that order, the black-clothed men surrounding Yanbu Gui quickly moved away. The embroidered-robed old man immediately shouted, Let's go. He immediately shot into the sky. Yanbu Gui looked at Bai Hua Fairy and Yan Zixia with a complicated gaze, but didn't dare to stay any longer, and also shot into the sky to chase after them. The two of them broke through the seal formation above the 100 Flowers Valley and quickly disappeared. Retreat. Yu Qianqiu nodded. The black-robed men on both sides immediately issued an order. The black-robed men below quickly collected the storage pouches of the dead foreign cultivators. Then, they flew across the sky and disappeared into the surrounding mountains, as if they had never appeared. Everyone was stunned. Could these people really be those rogue cultivators? Even when retreating, they didn't forget to scavenge some things. They really had the demeanor of those poor rogue cultivators. However, at least he still had some morals, and didn't touch the belongings of the dead disciples of the various sections. Otherwise, it would really be difficult to recover them. Actually, it had nothing to do with morality. Yu Qianqiu knew that these second-rate disciples didn't have anything valuable on them. Why would they do something so shameful and cause trouble? On the other hand, the guests that came from afar probably had quite a bit of money on them, so he should take them back to check. Ze flashed back to Yu Qianqiu's side. Yu Qianqiu couldn't help but look at Yan Zixia's sorrowful eyes. He couldn't help but shake his head and smile bitterly, thinking, Eldest miss, please don't blame me for being cruel just now. The crueler I am, the safer you and your mother will be. I hope you understand. At this time, the exhausted by Zizong's group of 4 ran over and bowed, saying, Thank you, Sir and Miss Ze, for saving our lives. Ze looked at the ragged clothes of the 4 people and frowned, but didn't say anything. No need to thank me, it's what I should do. Yu Qianqiu nodded and smiled. He also noticed the 4 people just now. It seems that the shopkeepers and workers of the 4 great family shops were almost all killed in order to protect them. Luckily, they managed to save their lives. Otherwise, a few people who shouldn't have died would have died in vain. I have something to do, so I'll leave first. You guys talk. A green light flashed from his sleeve, and Yu Qianqiu stepped on his sword and left. The temptress didn't even know the 4 people. So what was there to talk about? Of course, she followed them. Ze glanced at the 4 people. What was there to talk about? She only felt disgusted, so she sprung away. Everyone watched the 3 people leave, and then looked at the outside of the Hundred Flowers Palace. There were corpses everywhere, and the survivors from each sect started to collect the corpses. The market in the Hundred Flowers Valley was already deserted. When the three of them returned to the Hundred Flowers house, there was actually no one there. They probably all went to help just now. Yu Qianqiu rubbed his stomach and said, I didn't eat anything at first, and now there's no one. What bad luck. There should be ingredients in the kitchen. You guys go and rest first, I'll send them up later. The temptress smiled and slowly walked to the back. She really did look like a servant. Yu Qianqiu didn't stand on ceremony, and directly went upstairs. After entering the room, he sat in front of the round table in the center, and poured himself a cup of tea. As he drank, he looked at Ziyi and asked, If you have anything you want to ask, just ask. Don't stifle yourself. This girl's doubts were all written on her face, and she didn't know how to hide it. Ziyi clasped her hands together and fidgeted for a while. Suddenly, she looked at the door guiltily and turned back to ask, Do you want me to massage your shoulders? What? Yu Qianqiu was stunned and thought he heard wrong. Do you want me to massage your shoulders? Ziyi repeated. Yu Qianqiu's expression twitched. He didn't know what was wrong with this woman. She actually wanted to do such a thing. Even if she gave face to her father, he wouldn't dare to let her do it. So he shook his head and said, No need, no need. If you have something to say, just say it. Ziyi frowned slightly. It seemed that she was a little unhappy that he didn't let her massage him. She bit her lips and sat in front of Yu Qianqiu. She asked, Those loose cultivators are not loose cultivators at all. Where did you find them? Why don't I know? Yu Qianqiu replied without hesitation. Of course, I hired them with money. If you don't pay, who would help you for free? Ziyi's expression became serious and said, The joint attack of these people is very powerful. If I was surrounded by them, I wouldn't be able to last long if I didn't escape. You must have spent a lot of money to hire so many people at once, right? The sound of people coming upstairs came from outside. Yu Qianqiu didn't deny it, and just replied with an N. After a while, the temptress came in with a pile of food, and the table was almost full. The people from various sects were busy cleaning up the mess outside, but the three of them were eating and drinking comfortably in the room. The temptress took the opportunity to pour wine for Yu Qianqiu and asked, Just now, that old man in embroidered robes had the lives of Guan Muxue and her daughter in his hands. You let him go, and that's still acceptable. But you clearly had the chance to kill Yan Bugui. Why did you use him to exchange for the lives of the mother and daughter? You let him escape for nothing. Yu Qianqiu scratched his nose and thought to himself, The Yan father and son are targeting the Cultivation Alliance, not me. My interference has already made them very unhappy. If I really kill Yan Bugui, then just wait and see. Yan Juexing will definitely lead a group of people to fight me. The entire Chinese cultivation world needs to form the Cultivation Alliance to be able to fight them. I have nothing better to do. If I want to become enemies with these powerful people who killed my father, I'd be more likely to have a problem with my brain. You guys continue to fight. I'll just cheer you on from the side. Don't think that I'll get too involved. Yu Qianqiu drank a mouthful of wine and ate a mouthful of food, then casually explained. Some time ago, in order to split the money, the previous palace master of the 10,000 demons, Senior Yan Wuchun, had given me face. How could I have the cheek to kill his only son? Just take it as returning the old man's favor. The temptress nodded slightly. She had also heard about the matter of splitting the money, but she was more or less confused. There was no other reason, but the key was that this little fox was too sincere, which made her suspicious. On the coast of the East Sea, the heroes of the Cultivation Alliance, the righteous and the evil sects were stationed there. The defensive line was pulled apart along the coast, spanning hundreds of miles. This was originally a place where the coastal residents lived and fished for generations. However, in order to not implicate these ordinary people, the Fuxian Island used its control over the secular imperial power to force the local residents to move away. Although it was done with good intentions, the relocation was not a small number. Therefore, hundreds of thousands of people were forced to leave their homes. For a time, it caused public discontent and almost led to a civil uprising. In the end, it was General Wei who led the army to suppress it forcefully. They barely managed to move away, but the resettlement of hundreds of thousands of people became a problem. However, corrupt officials were running rampant in the imperial court, and the money allocated by the upper echelons was embezzled layer by layer. How much of it could fall into the hands of the people? If the livelihood of hundreds of thousands of people became a problem, it was only a matter of time before something big happened. This was not something the cultivation world would care about, and no one would care about. They had already fought with the foreign cultivators a few times, and both sides had suffered some losses. Currently, both sides were actively adjusting, preparing to compete with each other again. However, at this time, the Cultivation Alliance suddenly received news that Yenbu Gui had secretly brought dozens of tribulation passing stage experts to attack the headquarters of the Cultivation Alliance, the 100 Flowers Valley. Fortunately, Yu Qianqiu led more than 600 loose cultivators and arrived in time. Almost all of Yenbu Gui's group were killed. Unfortunately, in order to save Bai Hua Fairy and her daughter, Yenbu Gui and a late-stage tribulation passing stage expert were released. When the various sects heard this news, they couldn't believe it. Just the loose cultivators under Yu Qianqiu could kill dozens of tribulation passing stage experts? So they all sent messages to their own people to ask for more details. The result was that the more than 600 loose cultivators, led by Yu Qianqiu, were not ordinary loose cultivators. They were all tribulation passing stage experts. The various sects were shocked when they heard this. More than 600 tribulation passing stage experts? After confirming it several times, they finally believed it was true. The various sects gathered again to discuss this matter. It was a crucial moment in the war. How could they not use so many experts in the rear? So the Luo sect suggested that no matter where those loose cultivators came from, Yu Qianqiu could leave 50 loose cultivators to continue defending the 100 Flowers Valley, and the remaining 500 loose cultivators would be transferred to the various sects to prepare for the war. This proposal was unanimously supported by the various sections. Everyone knew very well why they did this. No one could rest assured that Yu Qianqiu had such a strong force in his hands. Especially sects like the Luo sect who had a grudge against him. It was better to split them up as soon as possible. Of course, jealousy was also a practical reason. All the sects wanted to take a bite out of it. The news of the transfer was immediately sent back. When Dongfang Chang'ao and Qiu Wuyuan received the news, they looked at each other. Anyone with a brain would know what it meant. Not to mention someone like Yu Qianqiu, who didn't want to be at a disadvantage. Dongfang Chang'ao said in a low voice, "Brother Qiu, you and Yu Qianqiu have always been brothers. I think it's better for you to make the decision." Chapter 414. There's no need for me to explain what this means. Qiu Wuyuan tossed the jade archive in his hand onto the tea table and chuckled. Didn't you see how obedient those people are towards Yu Qianqiu? Do you think Yu Qianqiu will obediently hand over such a useful subordinate? Sigh. Whether he's willing or not, one of us has to go talk to him. Otherwise, we won't be able to answer to the various sections. Dongfang Chang'ao said helplessly. He just saved our lives. And we're going to cut his flesh off. Who has the guts to say such a thing? Qiu Wuyuan slapped the tea table beside him. Dongfang Chang'ao frowned. They didn't see the situation at the time. It's easy for them to talk. But since my supporting Immortal Island and the 10,000 demons have agreed, and we're the ones in charge here, only you and I can talk to him. Talk my ass. Qiu Wuyuan shot to his feet. He pointed to the east and said angrily, "They only dared to speak so shamelessly because they're far away from us. Believe it or not, if they were face to face, none of them would dare to say something like that to Yu Qianqiu's face. With that brat's virtue, no matter how high your cultivation base is, no matter who you are, he dares to kill you on the spot. Which sect would dare to fart like that? The decree of the 10,000 demons is also here. Would you dare to disobey it?" Dongfang Chang'ao asked. When Qiu Wuyuan heard that, he was so angry that he glared at him and sat down again. Dongfang Chang'ao stood up and sighed. "We can't waste our time here. Let's go. We'll go together." If we're going to lose face, we'll lose face together. Upstairs in the 100 Flowers house, Yu Qianqiu was pinching his chin and smiling coldly at the window. The moment the coast of the East Sea came out with the results of the discussion, Bai Shan had immediately sent a message to him, and had the Bai clan's people inform him of the news. He waited there to see who in the Cultivation Alliance would tell him the good news. The Allure Enchantress, who was leaning on the side, frowned slightly. She was secretly the leader of the Pink Sect, so she naturally knew the results of the discussion. Yu Qianqiu glanced at her and sneered. None of you so-called sects are good people. If I had known earlier, I would have killed all the disciples of the various sects in the 100 Flowers Valley. A bunch of people who bite the hand that feeds them. The temptress rolled her eyes and said, Why are you scolding me too? Most of the sects agree. How can a small pink sect like me stop it? Besides, are you really that easy to talk to? Will you hand him over? Humph. Yu Qianqiu snorted coldly, but didn't say anything. He thought to himself, There's more to come, let's play slowly. Hey, let me ask you, what's the relationship between the 600 lone cultivators and the hero? The Allure Enchantress smiled and leaned over, then poked his waist with her finger. Yu Qianqiu shook his head and said, There's no relationship at all, don't think too much. Ze, who was sitting obediently at the side, widened her eyes and looked at the two of them. She could understand the first part of the conversation, but the more she listened, the more confused she became. Seeing the two of them being intimate with each other, an inexplicable feeling of jealousy arose in her heart. They're here, Yu Qianqiu said as he looked at Dongfang Chang, Ao and Qiu Wuyuan. The Allure Enchantress looked over, and the two people below also saw the two people at the window above. They looked at each other, and walked into the 100 Flowers Valley in silence. Once the two of them entered the room, Yu Qianqiu waved his hand at them and said, You don't have to say anything, I already know. For the sake of the big picture, I don't have any opinions, but to be honest, I can't make the decision for those lone cultivators. If you have anything to say it to them face to face. I won't get involved, in case they say that I'm trying to ruin things. Let's go. Follow me to see them. The two of them were stunned. Then they thought about it and realized that it was true. The people from the 4 major clans had probably told him before they did. But this was also good to avoid awkwardness. Thus, the two of them didn't say a word and followed him out. However, they were cursing in their hearts. Is this guy that easy to talk to? Once they left the 100 Flowers Valley, they saw people bowing to Yu Qianqiu. After all, he saved everyone's lives. Yu Qianqiu smiled and waved his hand along the way. The group left the 100 Flowers Valley. Yu Qianqiu threw out a flying sword and stepped on it. The few of them landed in a remote valley. Looking around and not seeing anyone, Yu Qianqiu clapped his hands. Suddenly someone shouted from a dark corner of the valley, Who's there? The Heavenly King covers the Earth Tiger. Yu Qianqiu shook his head, and said something that confused the few of them. Someone in the dark immediately replied, The pagoda suppresses the river demon. The few of them immediately understood that it was a secret code. They were all shocked by such a classic secret code, and looked at each other. A few figures shot over. They were the loose cultivators. Most of the black cloth covering their heads had been lifted up, revealing their noses and mouths. Their mouths were stained with a lot of mud, and they were chewing as if they were eating something. Dongfang Chang'ao and the others shifted their gazes to their hands. Some of them were holding wild sweet potatoes, while others were holding wild mountain spirits. Most of them had been bitten off. They were eating this, but they didn't seem to have been washed, so they just casually peeled the dirt and ate it. The few of them were confused, and didn't know what was going on. However, Yu Qianqiu shook his head and sighed. Brothers, I've let you down. Sigh. Elder Dongfang of Supporting Celestial Island and Elder Qiu of 10,000 Demons have brought the decree of the Cultivation Alliance. Do as you wish, I won't say anything else. After that, he quietly walked to the side with his back facing the others. Let them down. What did this guy do? The few of them were even more confused. Dongfang Chang, Ao and Qiu Wuyuan exchanged glances. Qiu Wuyuan took a step forward and coughed. We've received a decree from the Cultivation Alliance. In order to deal with the foreign cultivator's provocation, we've decided to transfer 500 people from your group to support them. Prepare to depart today. Pfft. The leader spat out the thing in his mouth and waved his hand at Qiu Wuyuan. What bullsh** decree? We're done, we're not going to do it anymore. When they took the money, they didn't give us a share, but when they fought for their lives, they thought of us. Damn it, we haven't even gotten a single spirit stone until now. We've been digging for these things in the mountains every day to eat. What a joke. As he said that, he threw away the half of the wild sweet potato. The few people beside him also threw away the things in their hands and shouted, "That's right. If you don't give us money, we're done, we're done." They wiped their mouths and pulled down their masks again. Dongfang Chang'ao frowned, and Qiu Wuyuan's face darkened. Neither of them were fools. In the end, they made such a big scene to scare people. In the end, it was all for money. It was very Yu Qianqiu's style. If it wasn't Yu Qianqiu's instruction, then it would be a miracle. Ziyi nodded in agreement with these masked rogue cultivators' statement that they wouldn't do it if they didn't give them money. However, she was a little confused as to why they would eat this thing. Allure Beauty couldn't help but smile. If this guy wanted to do it, why didn't he make it more realistic? Why did he have to make it so full of flaws? Would a tribulation passing stage cultivator be so hungry that they would dig wild sweet potatoes in the mountains to eat? With their cultivation, it wouldn't be a problem for them to abstain from food for half a year. Asking for money with this reason was too lame. Yu Qianqiu, what do you mean? Qiu Wuyuan turned around and asked. His face darkened, as if he had been tricked. Humph. Yu Qianqiu snorted coldly. He thought to himself, it's good that you understand. I'm just afraid that you don't, or you'll really think that I'm an idiot. He slowly turned around and said, I don't mean anything. What they mean is their own. It has nothing to do with me. Dongfang Chang'ao patted Qiu Wuyuan's arm, signaling him to calm down. He walked out and said to the rogue cultivators, We've already delivered the decree. If you have any requests, why don't you tell me? I'll pass it on to the Cultivation Alliance. Elder Dongfang is wise. The leader of the masked rogue cultivators cupped his fists and said, We're all rogue cultivators. When the Cultivation Alliance doesn't need us, they don't even bother to look us in the eye. Now that we can use it, they want us to risk our lives for a so-called decree. What a good plan. We have the elderly and the young to take care of, and we don't have a sect to guarantee us. If we die, we'll lose everything. Now we only have one request, and that is to give us some settlement allowance. That way, even if we die, we can't say anything. We have the elderly and the young to take care of. Settlement allowance? Why does it sound like something from the secular world? Dongfang Chang'ao was slightly stunned. He almost didn't understand what they meant, but he understood that they still wanted money. He took a deep breath and tried to remain calm. He said, How much money do you want? You can tell me directly. I'll pass it on to the Cultivation Alliance. As for whether they'll give it to you, I can't guarantee. The leader of the masked rogue cultivators said, We have more than 600 brothers. Each of us will ask for 100,000 upper-grade spirit stones. If it's less than that, then there's no need to say any more. More than 60 million upper-grade spirit stones. You're asking for an exorbitant price. Qiu Wuyuan sneered. Elder Qiu, you can say whatever you want. In short, don't force anyone. If you give us the money, we'll do it. If not, we'll just leave. The world is a big place. I believe that if we 600 brothers unite together, it won't be difficult to get 60 million. What do you think, Elder Qiu? The leader of the masked rogue cultivators said calmly, but everyone could hear the threat in his words. Dongfang Chang'ao raised his hand to stop Qiu Wuyuan, who was a little impulsive. He nodded and said, I understand what you mean. I'll pass on the message. Let's put it this way for now. I'll let you know when I get a reply. Without another word, Qiu Wuyuan took the lead and flew away. Dongfang Chang'ao cupped his hands at everyone and left as well. Good job. You guys continue. I won't disturb you anymore. Yu Qianqiu said with a smile. He threw out a flying sword and flew away. The two girls followed behind him. Just like that, the few of them slipped away, but they didn't get any practical results. When the various sects received the news, many of them immediately cursed. However, they still felt that letting these people gather together was a threat. They had to find a way to break them up. At the same time, they all wanted to recruit their own sections. Especially in this situation, everyone knew what it meant to have a group of tribulation passing stage cultivators. A slightly bigger sect could fork out 60 million upper-grade spirit stones each, but no one wanted to let the 600 rogue cultivators have it all to themselves. Therefore, the various sects came up with a way to pool the money. According to the calculation of 100,000 upper-grade spirit stones per person, the 600 rogue cultivators were divided up. When Dongfang Chang Ao and Qiu Wuyuan received the news, they went to look for the rogue cultivators again. Who knew that these guys wouldn't act until they saw the rabbit? They insisted on getting the spirit stones first. Chapter 415. In the face of such a request, you couldn't say that they were too much, but they still didn't know what was good for them. Qiu Wuyuan's face darkened, and he didn't say a word. He had never been threatened like this before. Dongfang Chang Ao asked expressionlessly, "How many people do you have? Tell me, and I'll try replying to the Cultivation Alliance." 632 people. As long as we get the money, we promise we'll rush over immediately. Don't worry, we'll do what we say. Okay. Dongfang Chang Ao agreed without hesitation. The two of them returned, and once again conveyed the loose cultivator's request. Although the sects were furious when they heard the news, it was worth it to be able to poach all of Yu Qianqiu's subordinates and turn him into a loner. Therefore, they ordered the people in the 100 Flowers Valley to raise the money and give it to Dongfang Chang Ao and Qiu Wuyuan. The sects didn't believe that these people would run away with the money and harm the interests of the sections. Although 600 people in the early stage of tribulation passing were powerful, they couldn't withstand the anger of the entire Chinese cultivation world. In the headquarters of the Cultivation Alliance, Qiu Wuyuan held the storage bag in his hand and snorted. Now that the spirit stones are ready, let's see what else they can do, unless they want to go against the entire Cultivation Alliance. Dongfang Chang Ao frowned slightly. Yu Qianqiu had been too calm for the past 2 days, as if this had nothing to do with him at all. Could he really hand over these people so easily? Did you notice something wrong with Yu Qianqiu? Dongfang Chang Ao asked. Yes. This kid never does things that are disadvantageous to him. I'm a little uncertain now, Qiu Wuyuan said suspiciously. There must be something strange when something is out of the ordinary. Dongfang Chang Ao pondered for a while, then shook his head and said, "Forget it. The Cultivation Alliance is in the wrong in this matter. We just need to do our duty as a messenger. Sai, let's go again." The two of them walked out of the headquarters of the Cultivation Alliance and saw that the shops of the various sects were hung with white soul summoning banners. Many people were wearing sackcloth. Tonight, there would be a memorial ceremony. Naturally, it was to mourn the dead disciples of the various sections. Upon seeing this, both of their hearts sank. Many disciples from supporting Immortals Island and 10,000 demons had also died. When they passed by the 100 Flowers house, Yu Qianqiu was holding a cup of tea and chatting with the 100 Charms enchantress. When he saw the two of them passing by, he waved his hand in a friendly manner, and the two of them nodded slightly in response. After watching the two of them leave the 100 Flowers Valley, the Allure Temptress turned around and smiled. "Little fox, what are you up to this time? Can you tell me a little?" Yu Qianqiu shook his head innocently and sighed. "I'm obviously living a peaceful life here. Why do you think I'm up to no good?" Sigh. "My heart was originally directed to the bright moon, but the bright moon shines on the ditch." "Oh, then I'll wait and see. I hope there won't be a day where I reveal my foxtail." The Allure Temptress giggled. Ze, who was at the side, sadly realized that she was a little unnecessary here. Outside the 100 Flowers Valley, Qiu Wuyuan frowned and said, "I'm a little curious. That Allure Temptress has been in hiding for so many years. How did she end up with Yu Qianqiu? You can go and ask her. See if you can find out the reason." Dongfang Chang Ao said and flew towards the place where the wandering cultivators were hiding. Qiu Wuyuan glared at him and followed. Ever since the battle, the two of them had become much more harmonious. They were still in the hidden and dark valley. The two of them looked around at the dark and damp environment. They really had to hand it to these people. They could actually hide here every day without moving. After the disgusting cut secret signal, the few people appeared again. Dongfang Chang. Ao threw the storage bag in his hand to the leader of the wandering cultivators and said, 63,200,000 upper-grade spiritual stones. Not a single one less. You guys take a look. The leader nodded and said, all right. Tomorrow morning, we'll gather outside the 100 Flowers Valley and immediately head to the coast of the East Sea. Dongfang Chang'ao and Qiu Weiyuan looked at each other. Obviously, they did not expect the other party to agree so easily. Qiu Weiyuan said in a deep voice, I've given you the spiritual stones. I hope you guys can keep your promise. I don't want 632 people to be missing. Don't worry, Elder Qiu. Tomorrow, you'll see that all 632 wandering cultivators, who showed up outside the 100 Flowers Palace, will appear outside the 100 Flowers Valley for you to count. We won't go back on our words. The leader of the wandering cultivators promised in a powerful voice. That's great. But I hope you guys remember not to run away with the money. Yu Qianqiu won't be able to bear the consequences. Qiu Weiyuan warned. The meaning of his words was clear. We have already determined that you guys are Yu Qianqiu's people. If you run away, the Cultivation Alliance will not look for you. They will look for Yu Qianqiu to settle the score. He suspected that the most likely thing these people would do was to take off their masks and run away. These people were obviously not the wandering cultivators from before. No one knew them. If they ran away, it would be really hard to find them. Thank you for your advice, Elder Qiu. See you tomorrow. The leader of the wandering cultivators sneered and waved his hand. The few of them went back into the darkness. It was night and the moon was bright. The market in the 100 Flowers Valley, that was originally bright all night, was closed. The center of the square that had been cleared out was piled with firewood, burning it to the sky. People from various sects gathered in circles and sat cross-legged. Many of them held a piece of wooden board in their hands and wrote the names of their dead disciples on it. Then, people from various sects threw these wooden boards into the raging fire. This was a unique ceremony in the Chinese cultivation world. There were no complicated ceremonies and no one spoke. It was very quiet. The only thing that could be heard was the sound of the burning fire and the crackling of the wood. As the wooden boards with names written on them were thrown into the fire, the dead disciples were completely cut off from this world. Tonight, the people from the various sects would silently sit here for the entire night, mourning the deaths of their fellow sect members. The Allure Beauty came upstairs with wine and food. She looked around the room and found that Yu Qianqiu was no longer in the room. Only Ziyi was leaning on the window, looking at the square where the ceremony was held. Looking at her, she seemed to be curious about this kind of ceremony. Miss Ziyi, where did Yu Qianqiu go? The Allure Beauty walked over and asked. Ziyi raised her hand and pointed to the opposite roof, saying, there. The Allure Beauty looked out of the window and looked in the direction of her finger. She saw Yu Qianqiu standing on the opposite roof with his hands behind his back. He was in a daze under the bright moon. No one knew what he was thinking about. Let's go up too. The Allure Beauty looked at the dishes in her hands and said. Ziyi nodded and took the lead to go up the opposite roof. The Allure Beauty held the things in her hands and floated up. When the two of them came, Yu Qianqiu looked back slightly and was a little indifferent. He turned his head and looked at the raging fire in the square. The two of them didn't disturb him. The Allure Beauty gave Ziyi a look and passed the tray in her hands to her. Then, she turned around and flashed back into the opposite house. The two of them had been together for a few days and were gradually able to accommodate each other. After a while, the Allure Beauty came back with a short table on the couch. She bent down and set it up on the roof. Then, she made a gesture to Ziyi. Ziyi's eyes lit up and understood the Allure Beauty's meaning. The two of them quickly took out the dishes and placed them on the short table. The Allure Beauty poured a cup of wine and walked to Yu Qianqiu's side. She smiled and said, why are you so focused? What are you thinking? Ziyi looked at the two of them and looked at the big moon above her head. She picked up her chopsticks and ate happily. It seemed like it was the first time she ate under the moon. Yu Qianqiu shook his head slightly and said, "Think about how many people will remember them after they die. If I, Yu Qianqiu, become like them one day, how many people will remember me, Yu Qianqiu?" As soon as he said that, a few old turtles flew past under the bright moon, leaving behind a few ear-piercing screeches. In the present age, the old turtle was regarded as an inauspicious symbol. Coincidentally, it appeared when Yu Qianqiu said those words. The allure enchantress raised her head and took a look. Her expression changed slightly as she pouted. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Yu Qianqiu smiled faintly and took the cup from her hand. As soon as he put it to his lips, he suddenly paused. The allure beauty followed his gaze and saw that Bai Hua Fairy had personally led Bai Hua Palace's disciples to the square, blocking the gap formed by the sect's encirclement. "I heard that the 600 or so loose cultivators have really accepted the Cultivation Alliance's decree and will be heading to the Eastern Sea tomorrow. If Yen Bugui brings people to forcefully welcome Guan Muxue and her daughter, who can stop them with just the people here?" The allure beauty looked away and said worriedly, "Don't worry, they've suffered a great loss this time, so they won't come back for a while. Even if Yen Bugui wants to come, those foreign cultivators won't risk the lives of their disciples for his own selfish reasons. After all, it's enough to scare them for a while. Under such a situation, Yen Bugui would not dare to act rashly." Yu Qianqiu smiled confidently as he drained the wine in his cup in one gulp. It was as if he was passing judgment on the world. The allure beauty looked at him and was a bit surprised. A complicated look flashed through her eyes. She took the cup from his hand and said, "You've really calculated everything. But I don't believe that you'll really give those people to the Cultivation Alliance for nothing?" Yu Qianqiu smiled noncommittally. This woman always talked about this topic after a few sentences. He changed the topic and said, "Palace Lord Yi, after the defeat of the Magical Illusion Palace, did you also hold such a memorial ceremony for the disciples who died in the battle?" Hearing this, the complexion of the allure beauty changed. She could no longer smile. With a somewhat absent-minded expression, she cast her gaze towards the raging flames on the square. She softly sighed, bowed, and placed the wine cup in her hand on the short table. Sitting cross-legged on the roof, she took out a zither from her storage bag and began to play it. The melancholy in the music was hard to suppress. The sudden sound of the zither attracted the attention of everyone in the square. Seeing that it was the three of them, they silently looked away and continued to meditate. On the other hand, Bai Hua Fairy and her daughter's gazes lingered on Yu Qianqiu for a bit. Purple Dress bit her chopsticks, looked at the allure beauty for a bit, then continued to eat her food. After getting rid of the allure beauty's question, Yu Qianqiu looked at the white banners in the square, thinking about the 600 subordinates who would set off tomorrow. He didn't know what would happen to them, so he couldn't help but feel a bit down. Thinking about the Utopia Alliance's army of almost 10,000 ready to go, his fighting spirit rose again. Listening to the allure beauty's melancholy music, he suddenly felt a sense of pride to compete against fate. He turned around and picked up the wine pot and cup, poured himself a cup then another. After thinking for a bit, he gave the cup to the moon and shook his head. Circulating his true essence, he suppressed the zither music and slowly recited, "Singing to wine, how long is life? Like the morning dew, the days past are bitter. Generous, unforgettable. Only Dukong can solve my worries. Indigo collar, my heart is long. But for my lord I have pondered until now." Every word was sent out clearly in the square, and everyone looked over in surprise. The recitation and melancholy music were supposed to be incompatible, but it produced another kind of beauty. They complemented each other, and it was extremely wonderful. The allure beauty stopped playing in shock and looked at him in a daze. This man gave her a feeling that he was becoming more and more unfathomable. He usually looked like he wasn't serious, but he was actually very astute. It was already surprising that he could play the zither and compose music, but in the blink of an eye, he could come up with such wonderful lyrics. It had to be said that he was a serious talent. Even if a talent like him wasn't in the cultivation world, he would definitely be famous in the secular world. Purple Dress stuck her chopsticks in her mouth again, staring at him with wide eyes. She also realized that she couldn't see through him anymore. The people below could not help but think, singing to wine. How long is there? Like the morning dew, the days past are bitter. Generous, unforgettable. Only Dukong can solve my worries. But for my lord, my heart is long. But for my lord, I have pondered until now. After thinking about it, they all looked at Yu Qianqiu with a lot of emotions. From the words itself, it seems like he was lamenting about life, thinking about someone. This was a perfect eulogy. Bai Hua Fairy stared at Yu Qianqiu, who was drinking to the moon on the rooftop, and nodded slightly, then turned to look at her daughter. Seeing that she was a bit lost, she silently closed her eyes. As the music stopped, Yu Qianqiu also realized that his emotions were a bit messy. So he drank the rest of the wine in his cup, and returned to 100 Flowers' house. The next day, Dongfang Chang'o and Qiu Wuyuan arrived at the 100 Flowers Valley early in the morning to wait. When the sun rose, the masked rogue cultivators really did come, gathering in front of the two of them from all directions. The leader walked over and clasped his fist. "We are ready, please give us the pass." As it was the time of the war, every sect had sent people to search for suspicious cultivators. Without the pass of the Cultivation Alliance, it would be a bit troublesome. There might even be a misunderstanding. Dongfang Chang, Ao and Qiu Wuyuan checked and nodded. Sure enough, they were all tribulation-passing realm early-stage cultivators. No one messed around. But then the two of them frowned. Qiu Wuyuan shouted, "You took 63. 2 million high-grade spirit stones. There should be 632 people. Why are you still missing 2? Elder Qiu, no need to rush. We are true to our words. The other 2 should be here soon. Just wait for a bit," the leader said. Just as Qiu Wuyuan snorted, someone shouted, they're coming, ah. I almost overslept." The voice was so familiar. Dongfang Chang, Ao, and Qiu Wuyuan's expression changed at the same time. Yu Qianqiu smiled and clasped his fist at the two of them, then turned to the group of rogue cultivators. "Are you ready? I just borrowed 10 large flying mystic instruments from the shops of the 4 major families. It should be enough to send us there." Dongfang Chang'o frowned. Qiu Wuyuan said in a deep voice, "Yu Qianqiu, why are you here again?" "Huh." Yu Qianqiu turned around and said, "Ze and I are both rogue cultivators, and we each received 100,000 high-grade spirit stones yesterday. Naturally, we have to go to the coast of East Sea to participate in the war according to the agreement between you and the rogue cultivators." Beauty of 100 Charms was surprised. "Yu Qianqiu, you and Ze are going to the coast of East Sea too? What about me?" Yu Qianqiu snickered. "You're not a rogue cultivator, and you didn't get any money. Of course you have to stay here." He didn't tell her, although he was afraid that the secret would be leaked, and he also wanted to find a reason to dump her. With her around, there were many things that he couldn't do freely. In fact, he also didn't tell Ze, but she definitely wouldn't doubt his decision. "You want to dump me and leave me here alone?" The 100 Charm Enchantress shouted in a delicate voice. Dongfang Chang'o frowned. "Yu Qianqiu, the Cultivation Alliance didn't send you a decree. Why are you going there?" "That's not right. The Cultivation Alliance allocated 63,200,000 high-grade spirit stones, including me and Ze. There were 632 rogue cultivators outside the 100-Flower Palace." Yu Qianqiu waved his hand and pointed at the masked rogue cultivators. "Although they didn't ask for my name, they didn't ask for theirs either. But they already gave me the money. Isn't it asking me to go too? Do they want me and Ze to wear mask clothes too? That's fine, luckily I have a few more here." As he spoke, he really took out 2 masked clothes with the word Rogue Cultivator embroidered on them from his storage bag, threw one to Ze, and put it on in front of everyone. Ze looked at him with the clothes, and put on the masked clothes too. After the two of them put on, they immediately stood among the rogue cultivators. The leader of the masked rogue cultivators stretched out his hand and said, 632 rogue cultivators are here, elders. Please give us the pass, so we can report to the Cultivation Alliance as soon as possible." Dongfang Chang'o and Qiu Wuyuan looked at each other. So Yu Qianqiu was waiting for them here. Just think about it. All the sects treated Yu Qianqiu as the representative of the rogue cultivators. But they didn't expect him to be a rogue cultivator too. In fact, let alone the sects, the two of them also neglected this point. This was bad. No one told these rogue cultivators that once they arrived at the coast of East Sea, they would be separated into different sections. They were going to be divided according to the method of distributing tasks after they arrived. If Yu Qianqiu brought them there, who among the sects would be able to poach them from his hands? This guy could beat or scold them at any time. Not to mention he brought so many loyal subordinates with him. He was even less afraid of anyone. It's over. All the sects were cheated of more than 60 million by him for nothing. Yu Qianqiu, what are you trying to do? Qiu Wuyuan shouted with a livid face. What am I trying to do? Yu Qianqiu sneered, took off his mask and said coldly, of course I'm following the decree of the Cultivation Alliance, going to the coast of East Sea to participate in the battle. Why? Did I say something wrong? Qiu Wuyuan was so angry that he couldn't speak. If he really sent this guy over, the various sects would not be able to poach him and lose a large sum of money. It would be strange if they didn't settle the score with him and Dongfang Chang'eo later. Chapter 416. What's wrong with me? Yu Qianqiu patted his chest and said, everyone knows that I'm a man of my word. Since I've already accepted the money, I will never go back on my word. I will never be a villain who goes back on his word. As for this, you can rest assured. Even if we don't have the token, we will still barge our way through. We will not be intimidated by any obstacles. His words were clearly a threat. His meaning was clear. If you don't give me the token, don't blame me for not warning you in advance if you run into any sects checking on us on the way, and something unexpected happens. Qiu Wuyuan was so angry that he laughed and said, you're a man of your word? I wonder who would believe you. It seems like you've always been the one praising yourself. Whether you're a man of your word or not, it's not up to you to decide. It's up to others to judge you. F***ck. How dare you doubt my character? Yu Qianqiu raised an eyebrow and said, the world has many misunderstandings about me. If I don't say it out loud, who would know that I, Yu Qianqiu, am a man of my word? You're twisting words and forcing logic. Qiu Wuyuan was about to refute him when Dongfang Chang'eo waved an arm in front of him, stopping him from speaking any further. With his other hand, he took out a jade archive and tossed it to Yu Qianqiu, saying, the token is here. Hurry up and report back. Qiu Wuyuan was taken aback. He looked at Dongfang Chang'eo in confusion, but the latter shook his head slightly. Yu Qianqiu caught the jade archive and tossed it to the masked rogue cultivator behind him. He glanced at the two of them and spat. Damn it. I didn't expect to save an ingrate. If I had known this would happen, I would have just let Yin Bugui and the others kill him. Why would I want to interfere in this matter? I'll be at ease if they're all dead. It'll save me some trouble. Dongfang Chang'eo and Qiu Wuyuan's expressions changed. Although the other party's words were harsh, he did save their lives. Compared to the debt of saving their lives, one or two harsh words were really nothing. Therefore, the two of them did not say anything else. Seeing that there was no response from the other party, and that he had obtained the pass, Yu Qianqiu could not be bothered to argue anymore. He took out a bunch of flying artifacts from his storage bag and distributed them to the masked loose cultivator. He kept 6 of them and kept the rest back. He said that he borrowed 10 of the best flying artifacts from the shops of the 4 great clans. But in fact, he spent a lot of money to make these 10 flying artifacts. Of course, when he said that he had spent a lot of money, he had used a lot of rare materials of his own, not a lot of spirit stones. Naturally, the cost of making it was completely free. The 4 great clans were too embarrassed to accept his money. However, they did obtain a lot of good materials during the making process. Long before the saber drawing assembly, he had a secret discussion with the head of the Jing clan, who specialized in making flying artifacts. Jing Feihong had agreed to help him make 10 flying artifacts that could carry 10,000 people at the same time, using the most secretive techniques from the Jing clan. Each artifact had to be able to carry at least 1,000 people. Even so, Yu Qianqiu's requirements were extremely strict. He wanted these 10 flying artifacts to not only have the best techniques, but also to be made of the most durable materials, especially the outer shell. It had to be able to withstand an attack from an expert in the final stage of the tribulation passing stage. At the very least, it had to be able to withstand an attack from an expert in the final stage of the tribulation passing stage. Jing Feihong was shocked to hear this. It was reasonable to use the most durable materials, but why did they need to make the shell so sturdy? Flying artifacts were used to carry people. Who would use a flying artifact to fight an expert in the final stage of the tribulation passing stage? Jing Feihong thought about it, shook his head, and smiled bitterly. He said, "Perhaps we can find some rare materials to make a small flying artifact. However, where can we find so many good materials to make 10 such large flying artifacts? Moreover, they have to be able to withstand an attack from an expert in the final stage of the tribulation passing stage. The Jing clan is really helpless. You don't have to worry about this. I will provide the materials. What do you think of using this to make them?" Yu Qianqiu said as he secretly stuffed something into Jing Feihong's hands. Jing Feihong took a look at it and was instantly shocked. He said, "Nether iron." The Jing clan was good at making artifacts, so they were naturally better at identifying these things. They immediately recognized what it was. It was actually the world's rare nether iron. If you use nether iron to make them, they should be able to withstand an attack from an expert in the final stage of the tribulation passing stage, right? Yu Qianqiu asked this because he wasn't too sure. He had never fought with an expert in the final stage of the tribulation passing stage, because he knew that the final stage and the middle stage of the tribulation passing stage were two completely different concepts. He had never dared to try fighting someone like that. Being beaten up was a small matter. At worst, he could just get back up after falling down. The important thing was that big boss you couldn't afford to lose face like that. Absolutely no problem. Unless the other party has some powerful artifact. Jing Feihong held the item in his hands and nodded as he looked at it. Then he asked suspiciously, "Even if we use nether iron to make them, the materials needed to make 10 ships are not something that can be easily obtained. Mister, how can you find so much nether iron?" "You don't have to worry about this. Just tell me how much you need." Yu Qianqiu patted his chest confidently. This, Jing Feihong thought for a while and said, "The amount of nether iron needed to make 10 ships, based on the storage bags in 3 rooms, would be at least 8 bags. That much?" Yu Qianqiu was shocked. Jing Feihong nodded and said, "If we use all of them with nether iron and add on the other things that we need, 8 bags would barely be enough. If we only need to use some in the crucial areas, 1 bag would be enough." "Forget it." Yu Qianqiu waved his hand and gritted his teeth. "You don't have to worry about the materials. I'll gather 10 bags for you as soon as possible. Use all of them with nether iron. They have to be sturdy and durable." Jing Feihong watched him leave dumbfounded. He didn't know if he would really be able to get 10 bags of nether iron. Without another word, Yu Qianqiu returned to Utopia on the same day. Back when he was digging the tunnels in the Hades cave, he had collected quite a lot of nether iron. Putting them all together, there were barely 3 bags. Chen Feng had even cried and begged him to keep at least half of them. He said that once he figured out a way to refine nether iron, he would let the entire Utopia army use nether iron artifacts. Originally, Yu Qianqiu didn't want to keep them, but after hearing what Chen Feng said, he was tempted. He had no choice but to make another trip to the Hades cave. He spent close to a day digging out a large tumor in the intestine-like Hades cave before finally getting 10 bags. The next day, when he really handed the 10 bags of nether iron to Jing Feihong gulped hard. He couldn't believe that this was real. After coming back to his senses, he immediately promised, "I'll definitely create those 10 artifacts as soon as possible." Yu Qianqiu recalled that Chen Feng had said that refining nether iron was very troublesome, so he asked Jing Feihong, "It might be more troublesome to refine nether iron. Does your Jing family have a way?" "Mister, you don't have to worry about this. My Jing family relies on refining artifacts, so we naturally have a set of secret refining techniques that won't be leaked. Jing Feihong said confidently. Yu Qianqiu's eyes lit up, and he immediately became interested. He asked, "What secret technique? Can you give me a set of recipes so that I can broaden my horizons?" "This," Jing Feihong said hesitantly, "this is the Jing family's foundation. The secret refining technique has always been kept by the Elders Guild. If you want to take it out, you have to get the Elders Guild's approval. I'm afraid it'll be difficult to take it out in a short period of time." "Haha, don't worry, I'm just asking casually," Yu Qianqiu said with a smile. In his heart, however, he was thinking that he would get it sooner or later, so he couldn't push them too hard. He had to wait for them to finish the 10 flying artifacts first. Just like that, Yu Qianqiu waited for news of the Jing family's flying artifacts. The day before yesterday, someone from the Jing family's shop came to say that the artifacts would be quietly delivered to the 100 Flowers Valley the next night. So the next day, after the masked loose cultivator received the spirit stones from Dongfangchang, Ao and Qiuwuyuan, he delayed his departure to the next day. The reason was that Yu Qianqiu wanted to wait until he got the artifacts before he left. A flying artifact could carry 1,000 people, so it was more than enough to carry 600 people. But after all, it was the first test. For the sake of speed and safety, Yu Qianqiu decided to scatter the 600 people. First, the smaller the size of the flying artifact, the faster it could fly. Second, if there was an accident, they wouldn't be killed all at once. On the surface, they were masked loose cultivators, but in reality, they were the 6 captains of the special forces. They threw the artifacts in their hands at the same time, and in the blink of an eye, 6 black flying artifacts with 2 sharp ends and round waists appeared in the sky. 2 pairs of legs stretched out from the bottom, and the 6 artifacts landed on the ground side by side. When the sun rose, it was supposed to be the time for everything to wake up and be full of life. But when these 6 enormous objects appeared, they immediately made everyone feel an inexplicable pressure. Their bodies were as black as ink, with 2 sharp ends. It was hard to tell which side was the head and which was the tail. The smooth, streamlined design made people's hearts palpitate under the sun's touch. It made everyone feel like they were facing 6 monsters. Dongfang Chang'eo and Qiuwuyuan looked at each other. They knew that this was a flying artifact, but they had never seen such a flying artifact before. It was a little strange. The Allure Beauty looked at Purple Dress and saw that she was also curious. Clearly, she had never seen it before. The loose cultivators were also sizing them up. In the end, their gazes focused on the abdomen of a few flying artifacts. They saw that there were words and strange symbols like Utopia 001 engraved on them. Everyone knew the words Utopia at the front, but they had never seen the symbols at the back. Yu Qianqiu pinched his chin, and his eyebrows twitched. He seemed to be a little proud. These artifacts had abandoned the flashy designs of dragons and beasts, and only chose a single streamlined design. It looked simple, but in fact, it was a combination of some of the design concepts he knew from his previous life. The streamlined design could reduce wind resistance, and only then could the flight speed be maximized. There was no point in having messy designs and engravings. The key was that it was practical. From Utopia 001 to Utopia 010, there were a total of 10 flying artifacts, and they were all named after Utopia. The one in front of him was 6 of them, and the remaining one was the one he had just put into his storage bag. Yu Qianqiu rubbed his hands together excitedly. He couldn't wait to try out the flying magic tool that had integrated the advanced concepts of his past life. In any case, he couldn't return to his past life, so he could only sit on this thing to reminisce. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.